Rena, can you hear me?
Boy. Just in case we
I know.
complimentary 3M mask. Hello, Heather.
Testing 1 2 1 2.
Okay, Raina, I show 5:30.
Yes, thank you. I show 5:30 as well.
With that, we'll begin our Selma City Council special meeting, our 8th of the year, June 3rd, 2021. The time is 5:30 p.m. The teleconference phone number is 301-715-8592. The ID is 858-6033-2601. The password is 1893. This meeting will be conducted in accordance with Governor Newsom's Executive Order N2920, which allows council members to attend meetings telephonically or electronically, as well as for public to participate in the meetings via phone or teleconference. Can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Guerra.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Here.
Mayor Robertson.
Here. Potential conflicts of interest. Any council member who has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the city council regarding any item on the special meeting agenda over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. City Clerk, do we have anyone who would like to make any comment at this time?
As a reminder to all the callers on the line, if you wish to address council during public comment portion, please press *9 to raise your hand and we will select you from the meeting queue. Please use *6 to unmute and mute yourself. I do see we have one person who had their hand raised. Mrs. Delgadillo, your line is open. Did you have any comments for council?
Yes, can you hear me, Raina?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Did you have
Thank
comments for council?
Yes, I do. Victoria Delgadillo, 2029 Alton Street, Selma, California, 93662. Thank you. I wanted to ask about the city manager position. I tried to obtain information about the job specifications, the requirements, the education, the experience, and all of the duties that encompass this position. And I wanted to see what was available on the website through Human Resources or the Personnel Department. And I was not privy to any of that information. I wanted to see something in writing that would entail all of those different facets of the position. And I could not find anything. After making several calls and going over to the city council personally, I still was not able to connect to any of the people who I called to get information about the duties that this position would entail. And I also wanted to see how many applicants there were for this position, and if a headhunter company had been hired to recruit a city manager. And I wanted to ask about the screening process. And then I found out There's only one person in human resources. I left a message at that number also, and no one called me back. So I could not obtain any information. Then I realized that the council can choose whatever they deem would be required for a city manager. And I was, to say the least, I was shocked. I don't think that that should be in place. I think there needs to be something specific and in writing entailing what.
Thanks very much,
should be
Mrs. Delgadillo.
necessary.
We really appreciate your
Thank
comments.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And by the way, that will be the next agenda item after the budget. The discussion and direction of recruitment appointment for the new city manager. We have anybody else on the line, City Clerk, wishing to speak for oral communications?
As a reminder to the callers that we have on the line, please use your raise hand feature if you wish to have council pick you to speak. Otherwise, at this moment, Mayor, we do not have any other callers.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the City Council budget session. Presentation and discussion of the draft 2021-22 fiscal year budget and capital improvement plan. I'll turn it over to our.
Mr. Mayor, before we start, I'd like to pull one of the items on the agenda. The council request for council majority to waive the attorney-client communications privilege. And then
Our consensus to waive item number 3 tonight.
I'll bring it back at a later time. I had put this on the agenda about regarding a question that was asked in public setting, but I want to have a little bit clearer agendized item so that we can go ahead and specify the topic that it's relating. I don't want it to have an open-ended. Right now, the way it looks like it's an open-ended client, attorney-client communication, and I don't want to leave it open-ended. So there's a specific memorandum that I want to discuss, and so that will be brought at a later time.
So this is subject to council review and consensus. Is consensus, or do we need a vote on this, city attorney? Okay. And a formal vote.
Well, I'll just do it. I'll make a motion to table that.
Okay.
Keep it formal.
I'll second it.
Okay.
I apologize, council. So if in fact there is no objection on the part of council, it can be by consensus. But if there is an objection, then there would need to be legally a formal motion, but it appears that a motion has already been made and is in place. So it's
Right.
at the council's discretion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to table this item.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Cho. Okay. Call the roll, please, city clerk. When you get back to your desk.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
No. Okay, that will move on to the presentation and discussion of the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget.
Thank you.
Acting City Manager Isaac Moreno.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Today is our second workshop for our overall budget. I do have a small agenda that we'll go through. There's not a lot of majority of changes. What we're doing today is coming back from some conversations that we had through the budget process and following up on that topic. There has been some small changes, which we'll go through the budget process. So our agenda for today, going through this process, is we'll talk about the budget request. There has been 3 requests from different entities, and we'll go through those topics and allow them to speak on those topics and how they're requesting those funds and what their intentions are for those in guard. We'll also talk about the changes in the budget from the prior workshop. As you're well aware, this is a fluid document. We continue to work it until we get to the end results. We feel comfortable so we can overall pass that budget throughout the year. The next one will be the homeless cost factor, which was requested as far as staff and how many hours they're put throughout the year. just dedicated to homeless operations, or as far as just logistics overall. Then we'll talk about the school resource officer that we had a previous conversation on. We'll finish that topic so that we can make sure we have the appropriate action within our budget. And then one of the other topics was public works employee cost analysis. The request was revolving around if we can add an additional public works maintenance individual and spread those through other funds and what that looks like in that cost factor. Okay. So our first topic, we'll go through the 2021-22 budget request. You can see the three categories: Chamber of Commerce, Selma Legacy Youth Center, Boys and Girls Club. We will at this point start with the Chamber of Commerce for their request for $14,200. We currently have the director, Bob Allen, on the line. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to him. As well, there's also a copy of the budget. So you received for the formal letter. Recently, we received an actual budget of what the dollars we utilized that isn't currently in your packet that you have right now.
Where would we find that in the budget, the chamber?
That dollar amount is not within the budget itself. The current budget amount is 15,000, a little over 15,000, and that's in the finance department budget.
In the finance department.
That's correct.
But real quick question, City Manager, on there it says 14,200 for the chamber.
Correct.
And on here it says 15,200.
So they already funded by 15,200.
Okay.
The request is to increase it by additional 14,200.
Okay.
Mr. Allen, you have the floor.
I'm here. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, it's a privilege for me to come this afternoon to give you a request based upon our Selma Chamber Board request to the city. I gave you, hope you have my proposal letter before you. My initial letter was just requesting to be considered for an additional amount to make our total budget 30,000 for the year, fiscal year for the chamber. I gave you a breakdown of the 2021 current budget of 15,200 and where that money is going. As you can tell, the categories are not funding any personnel or any operational costs. These are all community involved activities and events that will promote the community of Selma as well as the businesses that we serve. So what I will skip to is the additional request of funds, which is $14,200. I've broken it down in the categories of beautification committee. We have had a great team of working on the areas of beautification. Leslie Nelson and group goes out all the time. And then we have 4 major events that are sponsored for a total community cleanup where we invite everyone and every organization to come out and support us. Our last event, we had over 100 participants. The cost of that is about 4 events, and it's about $500 an event. That includes flowers we purchase for different parts of the community, as well as equipment and supplies needed for those who are out doing the work. Included in the next is our business marketing. We have found it necessary to reach out beyond the city of Selma to advertise for our businesses at different times of the year, Christmas and other times in which they need to get out the information about their sales that are going on in their businesses. And so we support that effort. So as you can see, it's newspaper ads, Fresno Bee Enterprise, as well as the Enjoy magazine and Visalia that we allow all of our downtown businesses to do an ad during special times of the year. Also, one of the projects we would like to undertake this next year and have it an ongoing process is a map revision. We've not had a map that can be used for the city for over at least probably 7 years. So we would like to take that project up and provide a map that encompasses not only business points, but all of the residential areas that have been annexed and are new within the community. For marketing seminars, as our community grows, there's more need for support and resources for our businesses. We found that out during COVID, and so we are planning to do 4 workshops yearly to provide those extra support for our, not only our downtown merchants, but our merchants throughout the community. And then banners and Christmas decorations, we are constantly updating those, and we would like to continue to provide support to ensure that the decorations are constantly updated as well as being refreshed. And so that's part of the 14,200 we are requesting. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for
Yeah.
Director Allen?
Bob, I have a question for you. I'm just looking at your proposal list and you have concerts in the park and it's empty. Is that / farmer's market, or are we missing an amount there for concerts in the
No,
park?
it's a I'm sorry, Councilman Guerra, that is a combined. Our August
Okay.
concerts in the park, we also have a farmer's market attached to that.
Mhm.
And we've been doing that for the last 2 years.
Okay, so that's combined.
Yes. We would like to improve upon that, and we are actually working with a consultant out of Fresno who does the Vineyard Farmers Market, and hoping that we can enhance that in August.
Comments? Bring it back. City Clerk, do we have anybody on the line who would like to make a comment on this budget request?
To the callers that we have on the line, as a reminder, if you wish to address council on this matter, please use *9 to raise your virtual hand and we will select you from the meeting queue. Please use *6 to unmute and mute yourself. For those using Zoom, please use the raise hand feature. Oh, very, very loud.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll let me know. Is that
Do you
better?
have any?
Turn it down a little bit,
It's
sir.
still, yeah, it's still a
Yes,
little too loud.
Okay, is that better?
It's a little
A
better.
little loud.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm in my vehicle. Well, I just want to thank Bob as a chamber member of the board. I just want to thank Bob and thank him for the great job that he did through COVID. I think that he did an awesome job keeping us together as a city and the businesses and everything that he has done. I just want to take this moment right now just to publicly thank him for his hard work and the efforts that he put behind the scenery of everything that he does. So thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
And that was Joe Alvarez, correct? Mr. Alvarez, was that you? Is that Pastor Joe?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just couldn't hear that at the beginning. Thank you for that. Does anyone else have any comments? City Clerk?
I do not see any other callers with their hands raised.
Thank you. With that,
We
we'll
have
bring
no
it
further
back.
comments.
Okay. With that, we'll bring it back. I agree. Chamber does a great job. Bob Allen, you've been there for years and years. I guess if I had any, critique to make, I would just say in terms of politicization, just don't let the organization get political. It's not about that. It's about business promotion. The elections that you have, maybe transparency, a little more on that. But in terms of the overall mission and business promotion, appreciate you hanging in there during a really dark time for business in Selma and what you do to promote our business. Is there a motion to
Mayor, before you take a vote here, can I just add one comment? Bob, for clarification, on your budget, you have 14,200 as a request, but on your letter, you're looking to increase it to a full amount of 30,000. That would actually make it 14,800, not 14,000.
No, that includes the 14,200. The prior 15,200.
Correct. So we
And
currently pay 15,200. So you're requesting to make it 30,000, correct?
correct.
That's a variance of 14,800. So just a small.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify that that's your formal request. It's not 14,200, it's
It
14,800.
is for a total of 30,000.
30,000. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, I'd like to just say a comment. Chamber of Commerce, merchants, we all that own businesses are merchants, and merchants equals commerce, commerce equals economic development. And I kind of find it interesting that we have the Chamber of Commerce here asking for a budget increase, or just the actual budget on a budget. I think that we as a city should have our city staff or our city manager or our staff to have, I think Chamber of Commerce should have its own itemized budget already set. Shouldn't be coming every year for a special request. My only opinion, Chamber of Commerce equals commerce, commerce equals economic development, and they're the ones that are going to be the first contact to someone that reaches out to Selma to want to bring their business here. I know that because I've spoke a couple of new businesses and they've reached out to the chamber. So with that, I would like to make the motion to increase or set the budget at 14,800, Isaac,
That's correct.
for the Chamber of Commerce.
For a second,
I'll second it.
call the roll, please.
I think, was there a tie for second? I had Mayor Pro Tem Cho and Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Photo finish.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Perfect.
Pro Tem.
Mhm.
So Pro Tem will have the second. Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes.
Okay, next item. This group before you is Selma Legacy Youth Center. It is a newly formed organization. Their request today from the council is for $50,000. You have received their formal request and budget on how they'd like to allocate those dollars. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Shar Tucker, who will be giving a formal presentation on how they'd like to utilize those funds.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, for the opportunity to present our request to you. I did want to make one correction. We had actually asked for $44,471. That was what was on our presentation. So I apologize for that error. But we are excited to, we're very close to being able to open our youth center, and we have many things planned for the youth of our community. Our goal is to be able to keep our youth off the street and away from gang solicitation. As you know, many families are dual working parents. Some parents, being single family, hold down 2 jobs. So children come home to an empty house. There's no one there to motivate them, to help them with homework. And our intent is to change that. We would like to purchase computers so that the kids can come and get help with homework, do reports, even apply for colleges. We want to be able to help them search for a job online and as well as train them how to do an interview, how to dress for an interview. We also need some paper supplies. And then we are also hoping to be able to do a drone class. As you know, drones are beginning to take over, and there are many different departments that utilize drones, police department, security, as well as advertising. And we'd like to be able to teach the kids how to build a drone, how to work on them, how to use them, as we feel that this may help them get a job after school. That cost is broken down there for you on the budget as well. As you know, college is not for everyone. There are kids out there that struggle just to get that diploma and may not have money to go to college, may not have the incentive that they need to further their education. So we are hoping to use such things as drone technology to teach them that there is a career out there for them. We are also working on getting some job shadowing available for them so that they can see maybe what career they would like to have. And we're hoping to be able to help them, you know, maybe get into some trade schools if college is not an answer. We're also hoping that we can take a group of kids up to Sacramento and introduce them to the world of government. I'm sure there are a lot of kids out there that probably don't even know what a city council meeting is about. So again, once things open up a little bit, we would like to be able to bring them to a city council meeting. Website development, besides creating a website for us, for the youth center, we would like to be able to teach them some website design, marketing, that type of thing. We think that might be a good fit for some of the kids. We are also looking at providing some recreation for them in the form of wrestling. I know Pastor Joe's son, Joey, has been very big in wrestling, and we've also talked to the wrestling coach over at the high school, and they are excited about coming over to our facility and trying to get some kids involved. We're also, I think sometimes I look at the youth center and think that it should include youth and family center. We're looking at putting some programs into place for drug intervention. And I know some of that influence comes from their home. So we would like to not just reach out to the child, but to their families. We have many, many things planned, and I know it is a big job ahead. We've been, held back some due to COVID, not being able to get out and do a lot of fundraisers. So we are hoping that we can get some help from the city and that we can work together and keep our youth off the street. Summertime is here, and there are a lot of kids that they don't have anything to do but hang out. And that creates a problem because that's exactly what our gang members are looking for. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for that presentation. Does council have any questions for Ms. Tucker at this time?
Yes, I have a question. I see that you're looking at enrolling 50 to 60 students. Is it the 50 or the 60? And then do you have those enrollments already? Do we have a number? Or
if I can enter, if I can answer, yes. Yes, we've talked, like Char mentioned right now, we've talked to the wrestling coaches. My boy, as many of you guys know, he was our international national heavyweight wrestler here in 2015, and he's involved in the wrestling community. And we've been talking to some of the wrestling coaches, and we've been talking to some of the in the city league, and we have a good group of young kids that are interested in enrolling. We're just waiting for us to finish everything that we can put the building up to code. But to answer your question, yes, we do have a good size of group of kids that are interested, and I know that as soon as we open the doors, we'll have a good problem, which is how I work with all these kids and staffing and everything, and making sure that we don't miss none of these kids.
I have a question. Oh, is it okay? Okay. My question is, well, basically, Councilmember Navarro asked it already, but my question is, are these just for Selma residents? Are you seeking outside to other cities to get 50 to 60 children here in your organization?
Well, that's interesting that you've asked that question. Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, when you get the 60 students, are you taking that that where we have the field trip? Since we're not open, we've not been able to register anyone, but we are hoping to work with the schools. There are children that are, as Pastor Joe says, that are already interested, and we're hoping that they will reach out to their friends as well. And primarily, since we're located in Selma, primarily our services would go to Selma. But that does not mean that if there was a child from another neighboring community that we would turn them away. We would be open to everyone and their families. I think that's the best way to say that. We would not turn any child away that needed help or needed our services. Did that answer your question?
Yes. And my other question is, you're saying that you don't have these kids enrolled yet, but I'm just saying for Boys and Girls Club, they're required to submit a register of how many kids have already applied. They have to give us all this information so that we can fund them. I mean, I'm not saying I'm totally for it, but some of these things like the trip from a nonprofit 501c, my understanding is you can't fund a field trip or gas. If I'm correct, I'm just kind of going back at some of the rules on this. So I'm just saying that this proposal probably needs to be a little cleaned up before I think I'm gonna, feel comfortable in saying that we can move forward. I mean, that's just my opinion. There's, 5 of us here.
So you're saying that So you're saying that a 501c3 could not take people on a field trip?
My understanding is they don't fund, I believe it's the transportation and gas. But again, I don't have all the rules in front of me. I'm just saying from the past, these are some of the things they had to take out. I could be wrong, but
you're referring to the limitations that the Boys and Girls Club has. We have an interesting, and we have we do that in our organization, or we do that in 501c status, other youth programs. The way that this is structured, we're going to be able to transport these kids, and not only we'll be able to transport them, but we'll be able to provide insurance for them as we're transporting these kids, and have all the perks that we'll be able to offer them. But we will be able to transport these kids.
Hard to hear you, Pastor Joe. Are you finished, Pastor Joe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Comment slash, I guess, I guess what you're really asking for is seed money. And when I say seed money, it's because I've been on council for what, three budgets, and I requested in the prior council, uh, the Boys and Girls Club came to our city council and requested an X amount of dollars. And you know, every organization in the city of Selma around the groups, they have a wish list. They have a wish list, and they start and they say, we're going to do this because we want to help our community. So what I'm asking is, you're really not asking, we want X, Y, and Z because we're going to do D and E. You're asking for a seed money because you feel that your organization will be able to produce something that it's in value to make sure that our community youth will be able to be provided with some good care, so our police department won't be ingested with some gangs. So that's what I'm thinking. You're not probably asking, but you're asking for seed money. And when I say to the council, seed money means, you know, the first year when an organization comes to us, they ask for some seed money. They ask for, you know, they have a belief and they have a desire to help the youth. And the first year is kind of like you get a green light. If you believe in the organization. The second year you ask and you've asked and you know, the staff 2 weeks ago when we were here, we were asked a question in regards to the Boys and Girls Club. Mike Kirshner said, you know, we have information of the Boys and Girls Club. And then he corrected himself and said, no, we don't, because we don't request that. So if I'm understanding correctly, we as a city staff, we don't ask and haven't gotten provided thorough information from youth organization that has received money from us. So it actually is a question to the council is this organization formidable to produce some youth activities that we can give them a seed money? Now, next year, if you as council want to say, hey, you know what, you know, I said this for the Boys and Girls Club last year when we gave them the 60-something thousand. I said, I'll go ahead and go with it, but I'd like to see what you as a group, because we funded you 2 years in a row, what you've done to seek other monies, because we as a council, we as legislators should be out there helping these organizations find money for their organization, not coming to the city. We have department heads we got to take care of. In that, I hope that that's what you're asking for, just seed money and helping that we believe in your organization. And for that, I would strongly recommend that we help them. I don't know about the 50,000, but I think that we strongly should help them if we believe in their cause. I believe in their cause. I believe in every organization's cause, but that's my own opinion. Okay.
Council member.
Yes, actually, the Legacy Youth Center and the Boys and Girls Club is in my district. So I'm very excited about the Legacy area to be able to cover this this location, because it's another whole area. These kids in this area would not be able to get to the Boys and Girls Club. It's cross town. They wouldn't be able to. So to me, another area for we can help the kids, you know, after school, whatever needs to be done, especially, you know, with the way, you know, economy is and the hardworking parents are not going to be there. If there's a source that the kids can go and learn and be safe, you know, and learn the good, you know, good things about what's going to happen in their life, you know, hopefully for education, I'm basically for it. So I agree with Councilman Trio. If this is a start money, then maybe we should help start, you know, and then after that, we'll see what we can do with them. And I'm sure, you know, I'm all into for fundraisers, and I know in this community is so giving, we will be able to help them get more money on their own also. So.
Point of clarification, I mean, I've received reports from the Boys and Girls Club that Mike Kirshner sent out, correct?
Yeah, Mayor Roberts, City Council, if I did misspeak, we get quarterly reports from Boys and Girls Club and the Smart Center, and they're on a regular basis. They just provide us numbers and the programs they're doing. But I think what we meant to say is, if it didn't come out correctly, we didn't set a requirement of what they have to hit, but they do have to.
So you received quarterly reports from their organization.
Correct.
So you would be able to let us know where our $67,000 went 2 years ago and where the money went the year before.
Yeah, because they provide a budget.
And what they've went out and looked for other agencies for money.
Correct.
So those don't get sent to us when you're going to ask for a budget increase or any information?
Well, just correction. I don't think the report actually states where they've looked for other funds. I think we can ask Diane, who's on the line, about that request. But I did receive a copy of the last report received from the Bros and Girls Club, and that has been included in your packet today. It's basically an informational of accomplishments and things they've done within the period of that quarter. So there is a sample for you to read at a later date.
In regards to the amount of money we gave them last year and the year prior, you're stating that they've given us a quarterly report every 3 months.
The Boys and Girls Club, yeah.
And Isaac, you have that with you.
I do not have those with me today, but Mike has shown me the last year. The last.
So can you get me,
calendar year.
can you get me the last 2 years of every quarter report?
Yeah, all 5, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I
Just
just have,
point of clarification.
oh, go ahead.
You mind?
No.
Just a couple more. Pastor or Shar, are you gonna charge the kids dues? Like, Boys and Girls Club, they charge like $1 just so the kids, there's some buy-in, to take care of their club. Is that contemplated in your organization?
We have not, we are not going to charge them.
Okay. And then I keep seeing when we do our reports, our planning reports, that you're still looking for the organization, the building, the location, still looking for a CUP. Will you pay for that conditional use permit out of this seed money? Right? Don't they need that too?
Well, I believe those fees were waived.
Yeah, the CUP process will actually waived. They just need to complete that process still. That's what's outstanding.
The actual improvements themselves.
Right.
So right now they can't open because you guys can't open because you haven't completed the repairs or the modifications specified in the conditional use permit. Is that a true statement?
We have not. But we plan to be done. We're hoping by the end of this month. And if you approve our request, you could certainly hold that money back until we have met all of those requirements.
And I didn't see any line item.
We are working diligently trying to get all.
Pardon me for interrupting you. I didn't see any line item in there for insurance. Will you be purchasing insurance with molestation coverage and all of the unfortunate coverages that nonprofits have to have these days to protect themselves, protect the kids?
We already have that
Yes,
insurance.
of course.
I just didn't see a line item in there. Okay.
We didn't put that in there because we already have it.
Councilmember Mendoza-Navarro had something to say.
I just need a clarification on the amount of money that you're requesting. Is it the 50,000 or the 44,471? And then with this, we would enter into an MOU, right? With reporting requirements and all of that.
So that is part of the conversation as far as what council would like to see from this group. You can instruct staff to work and develop an MOU or some type of agreement for quarterly reporting or whatever that overall structure that council is requesting for that information. So that is part of the topic and as how you'd like to structure if you'd like to go in this direction. Yes.
And then to clarify the amount?
So from the letter, it says 50,000, but Ms. Tucker has just clarified the budget, which is attached to their letter, the 44,471 is their formal request.
I'm sorry, I have one more question on the age. What would be the age for the kids?
Well, we don't really have an age limit. We are thinking most likely it will be probably junior high and high school. I think that's primarily the target, age target for us.
So you're looking about 12 to what, 18?
Or over. Some kids, they don't graduate from high school until they are 18. And we certainly don't want to abandon them at that point. That is probably one of the biggest needs is for, as I said earlier, kids that have struggled to get a diploma. And now where are they going? They're going to need some help with direction. If they're just left to amble around the streets, that's where gangs lurk. That's a perfect time for gangs to get them involved. We want to get them into our center, help them find jobs, help them learn a skill, possibly get them into a trade skill or get them into a junior college. We want to help them further their education so that they can make a choice as to which way their life is going to go. And I think that most kids, if given the opportunity, they don't want to be in gangs. They get in gangs because they don't have that support at home. They don't have any place to go. You know, especially now, summertime, what are they going to do? We're hoping they're going to come to our youth center. We already have the support of the POA. They have already offered to come over and visit with kids, shoot hoops with them. And what a great opportunity for them to see that the cops are not the bad guys. You know, how could you find someone better to befriend than a police officer?
Thank you.
Okay, Char, I have another question. You open another can of worms. You keep mentioning gangs, and unfortunately, I'm gonna come out and say something. When you're talking about gangs, now you're talking about, you said you may take kids over 18. Are you taking kids with criminal records? And if so, are you gonna be doing background checks? Because now you're looking at if these ex-gang members or gang members that you're claiming have a serious criminal record. I personally would not feel comfortable having other children around somebody that has a serious criminal record, because I have many friends that are in law enforcement and several of them that work for the juvenile hall and have stated that there are individuals that are under 12 years old committing adult crimes. And that is a very scary situation to be putting children that are seriously innocent that need help with criminals. That's why they don't put them together. They keep them separate. And I'm sorry that I got to be the bearer of bad news, but these are questions that are going to come up.
Will all the staff be backgrounded, Pastor?
Yes, all the staff will be backgrounded. I mean, we do
Brennan.
that every day. We do that all the time. And just to answer your question, we're not going to go and put anybody in danger. If one thing that we have learned from our experiences and from the other experiences that we've worked around the world, and now we're able to do here in Selma, is to take these kids off the streets. And I'm gonna speak to what we're doing right now. The neighborhood that we embraced and that we walked into was a neighborhood that had a lot of problems, a neighborhood that had a lot of drugs, gang stuff. And if you guys did a walk around our neighborhood and talk to some of our neighbors in the short period of time that we've been there, you guys should ask them the impact that we've had in that community already, in the apartment complex, our neighbors around the facility. We're knocking on doors and we're doing a job that I think that belongs to all of us as citizens of Selma that are interested in making our community a safer community, but also to help these kids develop themselves. So my kids are both law enforcement. My both kids work for the sheriff department, and we have a lot of veterans that are military ex-veterans. The plans, I mean, if I can steal the words that Councilman Trujillo said, we do dream, we do have a wish list, we do have everything, but our words in the community has to be able to speak louder than our words, because we have made a difference in the short period of time that we've worked in Selma. We're people that are go-getters, and we do a lot of work that, I know that can say, oh, it belongs to the police department, it belongs to the city council, it belongs. No, we just roll up our sleeves and we start working. We're not saying that it's nobody that's dropping the ball, but we're saying we want to help our community overcome the problems that we're facing today. And that's what we're doing right now. And our actions are going to speak louder than words, and things that we've done in the past should, speak for us. But at the same time, I can guarantee you that next year's conversation is going to be a total different conversation where you guys are going to see the results of our great efforts that we're going to put in that area where we're going to be able to work.
Will you guys have the ability to fill out a report on a periodic basis? Send to the city?
You know, we'll do the same thing as you guys have asked the Boys and Girls Clubs to do. We'll meet the same requirements as them, and we'll go ahead and do the same thing that, you know, that is fair for everyone, you know. And so, like we just mentioned right now, what we want to do is help our community become a better community. We want to develop young men and young women to become productive citizens of the city of Selma. And that's all we're asking. We're asking for you guys to come alongside us because this project can go forward. We're you know, we're already in the process of opening up, and this project is going to go forward. But we want to work together with you guys and make you guys participants of this great program that's going to be a blessing to the city of Selma.
I'm sorry, Pastor Joe, what's the address?
It's
of your
1426 Grove Street. It's the old tourist market.
City Clerk, do we have anybody on the line who'd like to talk about this?
As a reminder to the callers that we have on the line, please use your raise hand feature if using Zoom. If calling on the phone and you wish to address council during the public comment time, please press *9 to raise your virtual hand and we will select you from the meeting queue. Hi, Mrs. Delgadillo. I see that your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me, Raina?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, I'm always for anything for the youth. I always believe that it does take a village to raise kids. My concerns about this is the duplicity of services that already exist with Selma Unified School District. Selma Unified School District has a complete after-school program. It's free. They offer food, a meal for the kids, and they have computers. They have job search. They do interviews. They do dressing for interviews. And Selma Unified has a budget of $83 million available. And they fund after-school programs at the elementary schools, the junior high, and the high school. And as far as the classes go, through the adult school program, these classes can be offered there for adults and for students. And the school district can earn the ADA, the average daily attendance, to pay for certified qualified teachers to teach these classes. And that is how the instructors can be paid to teach the classes. And they would be able to be taught on the campus in the evening. So you can easily coordinate with the adult school coordinator at Selma Unified, and they can offer all of these types of classes. And there are also 2 wrestling buildings there, the old wrestling building and the new one. And you can use possibly one of the actual wrestling buildings with the mats for the students. They have the AVID program, and it's very successful in getting a lot of students into Ivy League schools, and they take them to campuses. And it's all paid for by Selma Unified School District, where we pay all of our taxes already. I think that this is very good. I am very concerned about the gang element and the mixing of criminals around children, especially child molesters. I do not want to have any children near people who solicit themselves for sex in parks. And I do not want to have children near those kinds of criminals. Thank you.
Ms. Delgadillo. we have any other callers?
Mayor Robertson, I do not see any other callers with their hands raised at this time.
Thank you. With that, we will bring it back to council. Does anyone have any more input? I have just one last comment. There's just first of all, I want to say that I'm very much supportive of another youth center, you know, on the east side, and having one on the west side. We really blanket our city with that, and I think that's a real step forward. One concern I have is with Pastor Joe. I remember his involvement with the Smart Center, and that was kind of a religious organization. And I'm just wondering, will this have religious overtones? And religion's a good thing, but when it's publicly funded, from what I understand, you can't have the religious overtones in the instruction. Is there a commitment there, Pastor, to make sure that this is ecumenical and not religious based?
Well, thank you for your concern, Mayor Robertson, and that's why Shar Tucker is representing this youth center, because this youth center is going to have it's a secular board. They don't go to our church. They're not members of our church, and it's been we are laying our facilities for this group to be able to work together with us. But it's not going to be we're not going to be Bible thumping the kids and trying to make the kids come into our church or try to submit them to our beliefs. What we're trying to do is, once again, clean the streets, trying to help these kids get off the streets and have them be able to discover the talents that they have. And we just want to come alongside them. So I thank Shar for the board that she has put together. It's a board that's community leaders, and like I just finished mentioning, none of them are board members of our church or members of our church. And I just want to be able to come alongside you guys as our city officials and help you guys make this city a better city. So I just want to let you know that, like I just mentioned right now, none of these people are the board members are part of our church. And that's not a requirement for these kids to come to our church, or it's not going to be a requirement that we're going to impose on them. Now, if there's a kid that wants to come to church with their family, praise the Lord, we'll accept them. But that's not going to be a requirement, sir. Do I answer your question?
You did. Thank you. Address my concerns. Or a motion or any more
I have
comments?
one more question. I mean, it may be just a comment. Not that I'm not against, because I'm not against this, but what I continue to hear from our citizens is, why can't we fund a sports complex for every child, for everyone, not just, for kids that we want to say are less fortunate or can't because they go home, like Vicky was saying, the school provides all these programs, after school programs, advid. I mean, they provide this. What citizens are saying is, why can't we have a sports complex like Dinuba? That way everybody can enjoy it. I mean, that place it's not anything fancy, but it's great because it's for all sports. And you can have a computer room there if you like, and have children go and do their homework or do an after school program. But that's what citizens of Selma want to see. They want to see their kids able to go to these facilities. That's just what I'm saying. Again, I mean, I'm not totally against any of this. But maybe some of the funding might need to be probably revised. And then I'd feel comfortable, because I just really need to verify this field trip amount. You're looking at, that's about 4,100, 4,200 there. Subtract it from the 44, maybe 40,000 to start them off. I'd feel comfortable.
Oh, I do have a comment. So one of the things, I know that they have these things at the after school programs, and they have students that are able to get there, but not every student is going to want to go to the after school program because they're, for whatever reason, and mainly bullying. You know, a lot of the issues are bullying, and they don't want to be in the after school program because that's where the bullying mostly happens. And so if they have a place to go that they're going to feel more comfortable in their element and more welcoming, then I think that this is a great stepping stone for them to go. And who knows, maybe those kids will end up being the mentors for the next generation or the next set of kids. One of the things that I do see on the Boys and Girls Club is they do have a field trip on here. They have a college trip that happened to be canceled because of COVID. And so it's on here that it's funded. So I'm not sure where, I mean, we could do, have staff do some research on it as far as if it's is not able to be funded because of the 501c. But I do see it on here on the Boys and Girls Club's program expense. And so for me, I am in support of this, especially because those students may not want to go to the after school program. And so they're not going to get the help that they need because they don't feel wanted or welcomed at the after school program. And so this would be something for them to go. And so with that, I would like to make a motion to fund the $44,471.
For a second,
I'll second that.
call the roll, please.
Just one moment before you take the full roll. Is there a request just to issue the funds, or are you asking for an MOU
I'm also
for
asking,
a
yes.
quarterly reporting?
Thank
So
you
before,
for-
wait, excuse me, I
No.
apologize. I have a question, and it's a little bit of a concern because why would we request an MOU for an agency that's coming for seed money? When do we have an MOU for the Boys and Girls Club?
The only agreement we have for the Boys
Do
and
we
Girls
have
Club is
do
for
we
the
have an
facility.
MOU for the Boys and Girls Club?
No, we only have it for
Do we have
Fiscal.
an MOU for any other agency that has received any money?
No.
So why would we asking for them to get an MOU? My question is in regards to our staff, our management team. If we allow and we say, why are we asking an agency for an MOU when we haven't in the past? I want to keep the practices. I want to keep everybody neutral. Our staff should be regularly asking for these reports. We shouldn't be, the council should not be asking our staff to get an MOU to get these kind of information. When they're using public funds, we should automatically be asking for these things routinely. Correct? So it's not a matter of asking for MOUs because those are harsh words. These are people that are donating their time to help our youth. When we help our youth, we help the police department, we help the overall agenda of our community. I wish we would understand that, the Chamber of Commerce, that's helping our community, that's advancing economic development. These individuals, I understand that they're coming in with different wording, but they're really asking for a seed money because they believe they're going to help our youth. So if we're going to ask the Boys and Girls Club or the Selma Youth Legacy for an MOU, then let's start asking MOUs for everyone. But we shouldn't be doing that. We should just have a general understanding that our staff should be regularly asking for everyone to be
Normal
audited.
practice. Yep.
It should be a common practice. Those words are harsh when you ask for MOUs. I apologize for interrupting.
So on that note, I actually, would this fall under the Parks Director, or who would this
It would
fall
be
under?
allocated to the Recreation Department, that's correct.
Okay, so then I would ask for a director's report on a quarterly basis. For all of the, for the Boys and Girls Club and for the Legacy Youth Center, a quarterly report during the director's report.
We can definitely do that.
But that means that the funding couldn't be pulled. I think the point of it too is first year, have something in place in case there are no kids that go to the Boys and Girls Club or the Legacy,
Yeah, they should
and
be
they're
given
not
quarterly
using their
reports.
money.
Yeah, it's
the
just
practices
what
should
kind
be
of
just
activities are
But
they
just
doing?
legally, could the city pull that funding if they're not operating as a club? Like if they, for 2 quarters, they have no kids and they're just keeping the money. Legally, can the city without an MOU come in and say, we're going to have to stop this funding, or we're going to have to pull this fund, or probably can't request it back, but what are the checks and balances that the city has just in case they're not doing what they're supposed to do?
Mayor and council, I think the approach would be to have, and I'm sorry if you can't hear me well, I think the approach would be to have express conditions laid out now at the time of the legislative action. If what council is asking for is quarterly reports, And if those reports do not reflect the adequate number of enrolled students or participation, those kinds of things, then the council does have the ability to have staff return to the council to have those monies rescinded and allocated elsewhere in the budget.
I think that's the point, right?
Yeah,
Just so
but-
that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and having some enforcement so that
Yeah, but I want to make sure
City's
that we,
getting that.
and that's perfect, but I want to make sure we follow the same practice, we
Right.
just think, I don't want to assume that we're gonna, this organization, okay, they're coming in and, the Selma Legacy Youth, they're using their own building. The Boys and Girls Club are using the Salazar Center. I noticed on the Boys and Girls Club, they have a budget for staffing of $56,000. That eats up the majority of their wages. Now, these, I don't know what they're asking for, and if it's gonna be, I consider it being seed money, but I don't mind having understanding and having understandings of what the parameters that they need to meet. But when we start talking about MOUs, we're actually imposing, to me, that sounds like a bad word. Let's just put some, understandings of what they have to, the criteria.
I think they get a lot of latitude the first year because they're just starting,
That's-
but I
that's what I
still
meant,
think the
that's what I meant.
city's taxpayer money, so we just need to make sure there's some
I
checks
have
and
a
balances. there.
question for you, council. Since we're talking about keeping our practice the same, should we then consider putting an MOU?
I think in many of the cities that I've worked with, MOUs are not unusual. They are put in place across the board, though, whenever there are public funds provided to a nonprofit. And so that everybody understands if you will, the rules of engagement. When you're going to use the public funds, these are the requirements. And that also assures council that the staff is on top of monitoring those MOUs and the quarterly reports or whatever reporting is set forth there. So I think a council policy down the road would be something that would be appropriate
And we
to.
could put that on the agenda.
And we
And-
probably have to go that route.
And that's one of the things that I'm used to, that where I come from, we have an MOU for everything. And so that's why I brought it up, is because it's uncomfortable for me to not have a MOU whenever we have any money, and organizations and agencies that we work with, that we don't have a memorandum of understanding.
So true, but point the mayor brought up right now was in regards to what if they don't meet the criteria of registered individuals? We handed the Boys and Girls Club $60-something thousand last year. They didn't meet for half a year. What says for that money about an MOU or an understanding for our city?
They didn't keep the money, correct? Or did they?
We could actually talk to them about that on the next item, but what they have given us a report saying that the unused funds have been rolled to the next year.
But again, I mean, we need to, I would entertain an MOU or an memo of understanding if we, the city council and a majority, would come to an agreement that we're all overall, it's a blanket. Everybody gets the same request and we're gonna look at it completely all together.
And then you can put limitations on there that, if for I don't know what it's called, but trying to think of the word,
Don't meet the requirements?
like for you to meet the requirements, and then you have like a period of like a cushion period, or you need to be in compliance by such and such time or what have you. And I mean, COVID happens, you have all these different things that happen. So you can't account for every what ifs, but just a blanket overall, boiler, just look at.
To council, would we be able to approve this with a motion and come back with a policy and do it for every agency that we approved?
Council, I think the approach, if that's the will of the majority, the approach would be to, if you're seeking to direct staff to come back with a policy that would lay out a uniform application of whether it's conditions, MOU, whatever it may be, that would ensure adequate reporting on a regular basis to the council. And if there are conditions that fall short, that item would either be returned to council on an upcoming agenda, or that the staff had the authority at their level to suspend until such time as there was compliance consistent with those conditions.
That seems professional. Have a policy, an overall policy for it,
We
guidelines,
can approve these and then go back.
taxpayer money, and then it can come back to the council if they're not
It's
doing
fair
it.
across the board. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Everybody has to do the
formal practice.
thing.
So for any agency or nonprofit that comes to us with a request for monies.
As the mayor had indicated, these are public funds, and so that's the kind of thing that provides the public assurance that the council is monitoring, the staff is monitoring, and the organizations
Does
are
that
held
equal
to some standard.
waiver of fees too? So if they get their fees waived for, if an organization gets their fees waived for something, you know, are they subject to the same policy?
Again, it would be the use of public funds.
I mean, it's the
so
same thing as
it's
money,
the same
right?
category.
Okay, so I guess that answers
Keep
that.
it fair
There's
across
a
the board.
motion. Do we need to
It
modify
would be
anything?
direction to staff, if that's council's concurrence or a motion. But it would be direction to staff to, along with this item, return to council with a policy that would lay out the use of those public funds and the conditions that across the board, all of the entities applying for
Did
that.
you want to amend your motion, council member?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, I'll amend the motion to include that, to instruct staff.
want to amend your second? Did we have a second? Okay,
All right.
so we have
I'll
a
have
first and
seconded.
second on an amended basis. Can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, next item.
Okay, thank you, council. Our next item on the agenda is the Boys and Girls Club. I will now turn it over to Diane, who is currently online.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and council members, for this opportunity. In Selma, our club opened in 2018, so this is our 4th year that we've continued service. Our kids are ages 6 to 18, and we offer the gang prevention and risky behaviors and education services to over, right now, it's 60 youth. We provided food boxes to the youth and their families during COVID. We hope to get back to full capacity, providing the services as COVID lifts, because we had over 260 members at the club prior to COVID. We've continued to lower our request, even though we weren't able to do the events that we had a committee and we had scheduled in 2020, but that didn't happen. We also are grateful to the Selma Healthcare District for they have been helping us out. So we respectfully request the $38,000 that's listed there to sustain our services. We want to continue to serve the most underserved part of Selma, giving kids a safe place for homework, our mentoring services, and we've been operating since November. And we're going forward during the summer months and after school. As Mr. Kirchner said, we do provide quarterly reports and have been transparent with the city for the use of the money. I do need to make a small correction. This last year when we closed, we did not bill for the whole amount. We were awarded $26,000. I'm not sure where that 60,000 number came from. But we actually received 21,000 in December of 20, so we could start our programs again when we opened in November. So we have been very transparent with the city, and I can answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for Ms. Carberry?
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions. What, and actually not to Ms. Carberry, to Isaac. Isaac, what would be the accumulated rent for the Salazar Center for the whole year, if someone else would rent it?
So currently, right now, we have 2 agreements in place, one for the Boys and Girls and one for the Smart Center. I believe each agreement is for $1. Is that correct, Mike? So
Yeah.
that is the funds we receive.
$1, yeah. But what would it be, what would that facility rent for in a year?
You're to rent it out standard, market rent, just off the top of my head, obviously, 12 to 14 as a market rent potentially. I mean, that's just assuming a factor. I'd have to do some research to actually give you a true number.
The only reason why I bring it up is because it is the Boys and Girls Club. They are a nationwide company. I'm not picking on the Boys and Girls Club. I'm just saying that in the past 2-3 years, we've had them here, and we're facilitating them, and they're using our building. We are renting it to them or giving it to them for $1. Let's keep in mind that these are items that we're giving up to this community, and they're doing a great job. But I want to make sure that we, as a city council, our legislators that represent the whole city, there's 28,000 people here, and we're taking care of we're gonna help Joel with the pastor with some seed money, but we also have the other side of town, and we just redistrict. So now individually we have a representative of our own district that we need to represent, which they're asking us, what are you doing for our kids? So when we start talking about, we're giving this money to, we're only giving them this amount of money. No, we take into account the assets that they're using. The city owns that building. So when I start talking in regards to what are we doing with these Boys and Girls Club, what are we doing at the youth center, the Legacy Youth, I'm also saying, hey, I live on the northern side of the town, and I want to know what we're going to do for those kids. So when we start talking in regards to giving individual monies, I like to know that I would like it to a point where organizations come to us 1 or 2 years and that's it. We gave them a seed money, they planted their seed, they grew their roots, and they started their own, and they're good. So we move over to the next club. That's the way it should be working out. But I thank the Boys and Girls Club for everything they've done. They've done a great job. I'm not pointing fingers, but I just wanted to make it a point that they are using a facility from the City of Selma that is helping, and they're doing a great job. But let's keep in mind, we each have an individual district that we represent, and we all have the community that we got to pay for, and we got to make sure that they're getting equal representation. There are kids that will not travel over there, and our kids need to all be all equally funded. So let's keep that in mind, but they're doing a great job. Thank you.
Council have any input?
So I just have
Girls Club?
a question. So like Councilmember Trujillo said, the Boys and Girls Club is nationwide. So is there any other organization or government body or anything like that that also funds the Boys and Girls Club, this particular Boys and Girls Club?
Yes, if you look at the budget, there's several items. The Central Valley Community Foundation, the county law enforcement, which is asset forfeiture from the Fresno County, individual donors and sponsors that I've included those funds. And then, but every Boys and Girls Club gets funding as a pass-through from the national level, but national doesn't give us anything that we don't apply for. I mean, they have a national marketing committee, like for instance, with Major League Baseball and Taco Bell Foundation, other foundations, and we only get a portion of that. And it goes for certain clubs. We have 15 clubs that are spread all over the county. So we have to fund all of those clubs. It's over 5,300 kids, and Selma is one of those 15. So it's on an individual basis based on the location of the club.
Diane, just for clarification, what line item are you referring to when you're saying that funding source is coming in?
Income.
It's
No, but under income,
yeah.
you're talking about the funds that are coming from the national organization itself. I see PP2.
No, there's no, in Selma, I don't have any national funds coming through.
That's what okay.
I don't think I've ever seen it. Diane, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the 4 years you've been in Selma, I haven't seen any national funds come through for the Selma branch. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I apologize, I didn't see that up on the top. I needed my glasses.
Diane, are you asking for $38,000?
Yes, I am.
Or is it 38,188?
Yes, 38,188.
Okay, thank you.
And from my perspective, having been involved with the Boys and Girls Club since the beginning and seen the changes and seen when they really got the 260 kids, they do an amazing job. And the reason I think you see so much payroll on there is it's a counseling organization. They have counseling, a lot of counseling there. Kids can go get their homework done, but more so talk to adults who care about them, you know, and you hear time and again from kids who go to the Boys and Girls Club. And I had that honor of attending that, you know, Boys and Girls Club of the Year, Member of the Year in Fresno in 2019. And, you know, they had 8 kids who were nominated from each club for Member of the Year. They had one set of parents that showed up out of 8 kids that were nominated. So a lot of the kids that go there are looking for a family. They're looking for, you know, that guidance and that family that they just don't have at home. And I think, you know, the Boys and Girls Club does a great job in supplementing kids' homes, and it all starts at home, like we hear, you know, and they function as a replacement home. And as Diane said, in a high impact area, Boys and Girls Club provides a really valuable service to the city, and they've done it on a consistent basis, and they do have that well-known brand, which I'm, you know, hopeful that we'll keep getting kids to come back. Ruby Wells is their unit director. I've been over there. She's born and raised in Selma, very giving person. All the elements are there to really help the youth and to prevent kids from going the wrong way. Just like Legacy, you know, Legacy's doing similar things over on the east side. I think it's a real blessing for our city to have 2 fine exemplary groups providing these services on both sides of the town. City Clerk, do we have anybody who would like to speak from the public tonight?
To the callers on the line, as a reminder, please use your raise hand feature or simply press *9 to raise your virtual hand, and we will select you from the meeting queue. Mayor Robertson, there are no callers on the line at this time who wish to be addressed.
That will bring it back to council. Is there any
Commissioner, I'll
further
make a motion.
discussion? Motion to approve. Is there a
Second
second?
it.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes, and with that, we've been here almost an hour and a half. Why don't we take a 5-minute break and we'll come back. Okay, we are back in session. And we are still on the first item, the city council budget session.
Start all over.
We're back after
was a
this break. No, I'm
practice.
kidding.
That was a practice.
That was a big speech, but okay. Just to recite a little bit of to summarize what I just said, staff is being given clear direction and we'll move forward with the policy in place and bring that back to council. So we'll now move on to the next item at hand, the changes in budget from the prior workshop. The first item or bullet that we can discuss kind of stemmed from the conversation that we had by reviewing the police department operations and the dispatch and a vision that our chief currently had prior to going into the budget workshop or prior to the budget workshop that we'd like to assess at this time. We have added to the budget, but I'd like to allow Chief Gomez to discuss what that change may be and how that impacts his overall operations. Joe.
Thank you. Mayor and council members, we talked about this briefly last time. So in dispatch, we added a supervisor for dispatch, and it's not actually it's not an addition. It's upgrading one of the dispatcher positions. We currently have 7, upgrading it to dispatcher supervisor. And we had a dispatcher 2. We had 1, and 1 left in April. So we'll have a dispatch supervisor and a dispatcher 2, not new positions. And the certifications, I don't recall that. What is that about?
It's just adding multiple certifications, an FTO certification to, I believe, 2 individuals and CTO certification pay for 2 individuals as well.
Yeah, so the CTOs they train dispatchers, and we're down 2 dispatchers now. So we made 3 communication training officers and additional field training officers, just 2 of them, and they'll be going to training in July. So that's the additional pay, and that's 5%?
I think it's 100 monthly, actually.
100 monthly, yeah. Yeah, so not a great deal of money, but we're trying to hire. We're in the process of hiring now. We're down 4 positions, and if things go through with the budget, then we'll have to hire more too. So we'll need those training officers and also the communication training officers to train the new dispatchers. And hopefully once we get our dispatch center on board at the new facility, then we'll be able to expand and contract out with other agencies, and therefore we'll have to hire additional dispatchers. So we'll be set with that, with our CTO training and also our dispatch supervisor. So we're just looking to the future, but right now we're not hiring additional dispatchers at this point.
Thank you, Chief. So
You're welcome.
Just to summarize, we're really, the concept of this is looking to the future. With our new facility and the expansion capabilities that we have, just to kind of give you an oversight of what our facility looks like now, I think there's 3 dispatch centers currently in there, while our new facility actually has 4 in the center console and 1 for a supervisor that can all dispatch, with the long-term ramifications to be able to maybe take on other facilities, maybe generate revenue doing so, and having multiple jurisdiction cooperation as far as how that's structured. So bringing in an overall supervisor is kind of that stepping stone to get that individual in place, structured, formatted, scope of work to be able to take those next steps as we try to expand. So as he said, we're adding certifications to be able to do so, but addition, just allowing that scope, but not adding individual dispatchers. We currently have 7. We will continue with 7. It's just the overall structure and format of that department, how it works. Are there any questions?
Isaac, I have a question. Or Trailer, you want to go? Just quickly, are we on target for October to move over our dispatch center over to the new facility?
So our final objective was to move over dispatch. The last time we talked to the state was just recently. We were given two options. We were to go with the current system we have, move it over, and you can move forward and you'd fully be functioning. Or you can take on a new system, which dispatch is currently not utilizing, because the system that we currently operate, that they all have different system types, right? That's not certified by the state to be able to use yet. And that's going to take some time. So what we're currently doing is saying, okay, do we want to move our old stuff over and wait for that new operating system to be approved by the state, which is fully funded by the state through their grants? Or do we want to take on this new system and see what it looks like? So staff has actually tried to bring in a demo and is working on that now to kind of give that feel from dispatch and get that feedback and see what they'd like to do. What does it mean to them? There are variances, right, for all operating systems, regardless of how you utilize it. One system, the overall still does the same, but the functionality of how it works is different. So we're getting that feedback now, and that is our last component. That's it.
And that demo is, Isaac's exactly right. That demo is next week. And if and all the dispatchers will be going to that, myself and Commander Garza also. And if that's good to go, it could be as soon as August if we go with that new system. It's called Vesta. The one we're waiting for, they're having problems with, is called Viper. And the state's not satisfied with that. That's the holdup with Viper. So Vesta looks good.
So it'll still be split.
What's
If
that?
if Viper doesn't get fine-tuned before August, you could get a few over in August, but the rest will have to stay until
We'll
Viper
get our
is
current
accredited.
system completely over, and they'll be fully functional at that facility.
Yes.
So, yeah,
That's
and
right.
and also the state's going to fund for that transfer and move as well, so.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. What's our total financial impact on all the, yes, you can call maneuvers the chief of police is planning and wanting to do at this present time?
The overall, I believe, was $12,000 just for this shifting and moving he's currently proposing.
Just 12,000?
Yeah, the overall impact, remember, we're not adding positions. We're actually just upgrading one of the positions to a current supervisor. So we already had a two in place. The certifications for dispatchers, again, is only $1,200 a year. So the overall jump.
So you're saying that we have right now 7 dispatchers that are right now active working?
No, we don't.
How
Because
many do we have?
we have 5.
5.
Yeah.
Budgeted, we have 7. but
Yes.
Okay, so we have five now, and we have budgeted 7.
Yes.
And out of those 5 that we have, you're planning to make one of them or 2 of them supervisors raising their pay, correct?
That's correct.
2 of them.
So we are
Out of
missing.
the 5, you're gonna make 2 supervisors out of those 5.
No, it's
No,
one.
no, it's one supervisor.
One supervisor.
One supervisor. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, and so you're making 1, okay. And in regards to the amount of police officers, what do we have active at this present time? How many full-time officers do we have now?
Yeah, that's tricky because
It's
What-
just a real
how do
quick
you-
question. How many officers?
how do you, well, we have 3 injured, so they're not out there. But when you say actively
Well, I mean,
working,
I mean, they could be injured, but if they're employed by
just
the
say
city of
total.
Selma, if they're employed by the city of Selma, they're employed.
okay, you mean that way, okay. We have 35.
55. And what's our total?
That's our
budget?
allotment, but we're down 4 positions.
Okay, so we have 31.
So we don't have 35.
Well, we're allotted 35
What's
positions.
our budgeted amount for, how many officers are we budgeted for the city? for last year,
I'm looking that up
2020?
now. So if you look into your budget book that you're provided, you can go into the first couple sheets and you'll see employee staffing count. And you can go to the departments for police, which is, one is on the first page, which is officer support.
Operations.
The other 2 categories, police operations and police administration. Those are your physical counts.
I see that,
So-
but what I'm asking right now is what we have right now on hand. You're telling me that is it the dispatching and the police department total impact for any changes that we're gonna be doing right now is only $12,000.
Yeah, so I can state that the increase to a supervisor position would cost 11,600. The additional CTO certifications is 3,100. So that's the cost factor of doing this change.
That's all we're gonna do.
What about the additional commander and the
That's-
two officers?
That's
Are we
the
talking
whole-
about that?
That's already been funded
Okay,
within
so
the
that's
original
already in there.
budget. We're just talking overall changes from last budget workshop to this budget
This one,
workshop.
yeah.
So I thought.
Budget workshop, got it.
I thought that last meeting, you said that we hadn't had that in the budget for the additional request of police chief. Now it's in the budget and
So-
it's allocated?
So there was a request from the original budget.
We came here, chief of police started talking in regards to a commander or a
Additional commander.
additional commander.
Right.
And you stated that we hadn't actually done an analysis and actually put it in our budget.
For the commander position, the commander position was in the last budget.
It was, yeah.
Good.
It was this
Okay.
additional that he added. That's what was not confirmed.
So
It
from,
was, because remember they had 2 lieutenants, but we were only down to 1. So it was already budgeted.
We had
Yeah,
three
so
that they
the-
put in there.
from going back to our previous council request, our previous budget workshop, police department's request was for 1 commander, 2 detectives, 1 admin sergeant, 1 CSO, 4 motor police officers, and 1 officer, and 1 administrative assistant. What went through to the budget itself was 1 commander, 1 detective, 1 admin sergeant. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, and so going back to the original question, we have a total of 35 staff members, and we have them, and they're all working still. We all have 35. We have 35 police officers right now present.
We are not fully staffed at this moment, no.
What do we have fully staffed at this moment?
31, we're down 4. Yeah, 31.
Okay, good.
Chief, how many officers do we have on patrol during the day and how many at night, including the Sarge?
It varies because we have 3 injured. So we're probably averaging on shift. We have 4 shifts, patrol shifts, probably 3.5. Some of the shifts just have 3, and we're kind of limping along right now, making it work, but it's, we need to fill those positions.
Yeah, because at some point we were, I think last year, we were getting close to
Oh, yeah, yeah.
5 and 6
Well,
at
for
night.
most of the year, since I've been here in 2020, I only hired 3 people because we were fully staffed with officers. It's just in 2021, it started to, 4 left in April. So, and it's been difficult hiring. It absolutely has been, but we're trying. We have people in backgrounds and we're working on it.
You
4
teach
left
at the
in April.
academy too, right? You teach at the academy and you recruit there as well?
Everywhere. Yeah, I have one actually that is going to be hired once he'll be sworn in June. We can't hire him yet because he could get hurt. But as soon as he graduates, it's the 24th, I'll swear him in that day.
So you're telling me that you have 4 that left and you have 4 that are hurt?
3 are hurt. Yeah. One, I really don't think he'll come back till 2022 because it's a pretty serious shoulder injury.
Okay, so we have 28. Out of the 28, how many are actual supervisors?
On patrol, 4.
Any other comments from council? City Clerk, do we have anybody on the line who'd like to weigh in on this topic?
To the callers on the line, please use your raise hand feature on Zoom. Hi, Mrs. Jagodillo. Your line is open. Did you have comments for council?
Yes, I do. I know that we already utilize almost 62% of our budget, city budget of $15 million for public safety. And it still isn't enough to keep our streets safe and to make sure that we can take a walk downtown with our dogs and stop at Foster's Freeze and get a cold drink and walk our way back to our home. I live on Elton and McCall Street. And it would be awesome if we could eliminate all of the tweakers in the nighttime with staffing, complete staffing, and all the staffing that Chief Gomez needs to do his job. And I believe that it's our responsibility as citizens to demand it. And I'm demanding it because if we don't have a safe city, we do not have any economics. We do not have any cultural arts. We do not have good schools. We do not have anything. Everything that is vital to a city is its safety. We have to take this very serious and realize that whatever Chief Gomez needs, we need to give it to him. And there should be no questions whatsoever. He's experienced, he knows his job, and by golly, we need to let him do it. That's why we hired him here. And I, for one, support everything that he is doing. And I am very impressed at how clean our city looks and the good job he's been doing with the homeless people and the job that I can see and the beautification that he does in removing these camps. He's doing the best job that he can, and he needs all of our support in the city. In our neighborhood watch, we do what we can at our end to make sure that we are supporting our police because they have an enormous job. And it is not fair to try to put it on one person. It's everybody's responsibility to report crime and to circumvent it and end it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was looking at the 14-15 adopted and budget, and in police operations that year it was funded to $3,710,000. This year at some point though, it seems like that's not the issue. The issue is actually finding officers to fill these unfilled positions, because we can fund, budget them, but it seems like there's a shortfall countywide in officers right now for many reasons. Some cities are even offering these bonuses, so it's going to take.
You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to take some creativity and some marketing, to get officers to come to Selma. So I'd love to see us get back to that, 5 number during the day and 6 at night.
Yeah.
Council have any additional questions before we move on?
Okay, thank you. So that concludes the police department operations for major changes. One of the other changes was for the building department for the removal of the pickup that they requested. This is an adjustment of 36,000, merely an adjusting factor to balance the overall budget. Again, this is a fluid document. We'll be looking to try and add this back as we continue to work the budget, or look for additional funding source for that vehicle. So we'll continue to look at that as we go through the process. I just want to point that out.
Isaac, may I add something?
Sure.
Just to clarify, that vehicle is for code enforcement, but it falls technically under the building department. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next topic is Measure S. This kind of goes to the next topic as well. We did move one of the ambulance. The fire department has requested 2 ambulance for them to go full service. We've actually adjusted one in the ambulance fund and shifted the other one into Measure S. Again, still showing a balanced budget overall for Measure S. The main item itself and the key adjustment that we had come from the ambulance fund itself. So we've received word from consultants regarding the IGT transfer.
Is page 47?
Funds.
Is this
Sorry?
page 47? Where are we?
The ambulance fund is on page 31 of the budget. So from the information we received from our consultants, we were made aware that we know that when we did our reporting last time, we did a year and a half. Well, it looks to, from what they're telling us, we're only going to receive a half, which we're aware of, but we thought we actually receive another increment after that to be able to make us whole. But it's what they're telling us is now that full amount will come at a later date. So we have adjusted our revenues accordingly and our budget accordingly. We still made budget overall with a shortfall of $1,900, which I'm sure between myself and the chief, we can clear that up. But we still have the overall operations and shift to make the overall shift on January of 22 to be able to do a full operational.
Will that, what is that, 1.7 million shortfall at this point? Will that be made up in the next 12 months by the IGT?
What they're doing is going to consolidate. What the overall shift was is they're going from, instead of a fiscal year, they're going to a calendar year. So they're not going to make it up. You're just going to see that money shift within a different period now. So we'll be made whole. I'm sorry?
Be a 6 month instead of a.
It'll still be a full year. It's just they're not going to be looking at fiscals. They're going to be looking at calendar for the program. So they shifted it around so that the reporting periods are different, which created an increment of 6 months instead of a full year. And then you get a full year for the next cycle itself. So it just created that offset.
Will calendar year be 1/1, like January to January or July to July?
January to December is the period they'll start looking at.
Will the funding be fiscal or yearly?
It'll go to calendar, so we'll still receive it on our fiscal.
It's
So
not, we're not losing it. It's just going to be funded a little different.
that's correct. It's just the parameters and how they shifted the increments has changed, but does impact overall budget because now you're only seeing a piece of it where you normally see a whole. So we'll get back to where we are as far as the next budget. But I mean, the good thing is you can see we're all overall still making budget without that full increment. Yes, it is a tighter. We had to make some cuts, but we're able to still get it done. Okay. I mean, that still shows the stability of the overall department itself. We were able to make that by a large cut and take it. Is there any other comments? Okay, the next topic. So again, out of the budget workshop, we had a request for homeless cost factor as far as staff and what our overall operations look like as a dollar amount between all departments overall. I'll send you a copy of the report so you have it. I know this is a little bit hard to read. So we talked to all departments, came together and kind of gave an analysis of what it looks like per each department, how many hours an operation or an individual within those departments is allocating to some type of operation regarding homeless, whether that's just communication or outreach or whatever it may be. So you can see through the departments overall, you see 5 hours weekly potentially for the police department for one officer. Again, this could be any officer, it's not one identified officer. Fire department, you see the fire marshal, captain, engineers. Standardly, they go out together and assess things and get that done. Fire marshal is obviously a little different. His overall objectives are different. Recreation, that's the community service director, obviously having to take care of the parks and assess whatever may be occurring. They're half-hour weekly. So what we did is, you can see the remaining departments going forward. So what I did is take that weekly allocation, turn it into an annual allocation. That's the dollar amounts that you see for per year for each department. This is not factor special operations. So we have to do a cleanup or things of that nature. This is really just your overall day-to-day operations and how the homeless impacts us. So the annual cost factor using today's dollars and cost factors is $120,860.22.
That probably is a lot less than what it should be, but I appreciate, the fact that you brought something up in this regards, because we know that you're using analysis and we know that those are probably not factual, but I want to bring to the council the fact that homelessness is something that we decided that is one of our main priorities. But in regards to the future for the county and the state and the federal, we need to start doing analysis. We need to start tracking all these information, because these tracking information is billable goods for the future for the county and the state and the federal. That's the only reason why I was asking for this information, is because at one point in time, Selma is we all know that Fowler and Kingsburg and everyone else wants to ship them to us because we have the resources, but we're being embargoed with a lot of issues. And I think that one of our key points as staff is to do more analysis, do more tracking. This will end up, I promise this will end up becoming money to us. The more we go and we as legislators go out to the state, county and show that it's costing us money because we're a resource to our county, this will become money. And I appreciate, Isaac, that you did this because this is a start, this is something, and we as our department heads start, hey, figuring out how we can twist this and make this better. This is going to become something for us to go to the county and the state and say, we want our money back. So thank you for that, okay?
The one thing I can do, if council would like, I can create this actual document on an annual basis through our budget workshop so you can see how that number has changed throughout the years. I will say if we looked at this information and did this analysis last year, this number would be higher, definitely be higher.
Yeah.
Last year at Super 8, there were like 79 people at this time, right? Or a lot more.
But he's going to have this report. It'll be good.
So are you going to get us an analysis of how the American Rescue Plan money will be spent too? How it can be spent? Is that
It's going to
coming?
be according to our objectives, and we'll have a discussion on the full parameters of what that looks like, how you can utilize this money, and get some direction on how we can take that together. Obviously, we got lots of things going on. I did have a webinar that tells us that we can assess it similar to what we've done in the future with COVID dollars, as far as it can be directly allocated to safety services, which we currently have expenditure for. Therefore, you can utilize and free up those general fund dollars to other things. So we're already doing those analysis. The full steps are still coming out as far as how we receive that money. The bigger cities have gotten their direction. The entitlements, the cities are still kind of on the back end. I have another webinar coming up currently, so how that's going to flow. So that's all still going through the process, and we're figuring that out.
Thank you.
Isaac, I have a question.
Yes.
We got 27 days before June 30th. So Super 8, this West Care is going to be out of funds. So technically there's about 40 something, 49 according to our last report, Chief, is that correct? Only 5 of those individuals are Selma residents. So we're looking at 40 some that are not Selma residents. Where do you think they're gonna go? They're just gonna go out on our streets. So are we going to implement something like the state where their last residents, if you came from Sanger, that's where you're going back? How are we going to, what direction are we going to use to stand firm? Because we don't have the funding, nor do we have a place for them now. We've talked about this, and we are at least talking about what is a solution for Selma. We don't have funding to be a solution for this entire Central Valley.
I agree. As far as, when you're looking to a program in this sense, you're looking to your general fund because you don't have a program in place. As far as, I think there's dollars out there that we can look to, like turnkey and things of that nature. There's a lot of programs that are currently coming out. Also with the state budget and what they're trying to do, there's a lot of dollars coming out and how we can assist. Once you get into those programs, you can try to identify targets and programs and how that structure works. Obviously, you have to meet their parameters. So I think there's a lot of current things that are currently happening, especially at the state level, that we will now look to assess and what that looks like. But again, we'll take those programs. I'll bring them to council and have that conversation and
ARP
get direction.
can be used for homeless solutions, correct?
I'm sorry?
ARP, the American Rescue
Again,
Plan money.
using the format and the structure that we'll report it will allow it to free it up to do other things that we need to do. So that, again, that could be a parameter in which you give direction to do.
Because you don't know how much it's going to be.
Yeah, we
and
still
how
haven't
many
got the
are
straight,
gonna
I mean,
wanna
our
stay in
estimate,
Selma.
To our council, is there any policies that we could start looking, and is there any legislative issues or policies that we could start talking about as a whole council to start putting ourselves in a better position for the near future?
So council, if the focus of the question remains on homelessness and the costs to the community for that, certainly I think identifying numbers on an annual basis of what the cost is to the community you're going to have to identify metrics when these funds become available. And to the extent that you can do this type of thing, although I would suggest that there may be some opportunities to expand this from the code enforcement side. That's not there right now. I assume that if
Code is
there's-
there. It's under community development.
And then you've got the special instances where you would go out and fund the cleanup. That becomes very
was left out.
expensive, and actually you have liability issues, legal liability issues that have come into play for communities with that. So there are additional numbers that can be added to this, but having an annual cost and have that be set up with your ongoing budget reports is really the first way that you can identify recoverable costs. Beyond that, I mean, there are grants available and other things out there that are flying across the board, especially in light of COVID and some of the other things. But from a timing standpoint, you need to be able to have someone who has the eagle eye to catch those. A lot of communities have consultants who do that. I don't know the level of the lobbyist or other
Grant
consultant
writer.
work that you
We have a
have.
grant writer and a lobbyist. People are watching. Do we have Teresa Moreno coming from Continuum of Care to the June meeting? Is she still coming to tell us what's going to happen with Super 8 folks?
City Clerk, can you answer that question?
Yeah, if she's not, can we re-invite her?
I'll look into that. One thing I do like about the conversation overall, and I think gives staff clear direction, is assessing the policy. What is it you want us to do? Do you want us to go after these grants? Are you looking to restrict parameters as far as just city residents of Selma, open it up? I think clear direction as far as a policy will tell us, okay, you can go after home key, but we want you to do this, this, and this, or you want go after that state money, send the lobbyists, send the grant writers. This is how we want that structure to look, because that'll give us clear direction on what the council as a whole wants us to do.
Well, I mean, the county brought them all here and they had the funding, so they paid for it. But when the funding runs out, we're left holding the bag, you know, and they're not, we need to know what the county's going to do to help us with the remainder.
And we do know the counties continue to work with those groups and obviously put them into the programs that they currently have. I'm constantly hearing news as far as new facilities being opened. They're taking over another hotel or whatever it may be. So we continue to work with the county because they are our focal point when it comes to this topic.
I think that we can, I know the last 5-6 months it's been getting intense. And we've been getting really, you know, in regards to conversations in our council. But I think that, you know, we can take the negative approach of saying that, you know, it's not good for our community. Me as a business owner, I've had my wife's called me multiple times saying there's somebody sleeping in the back door of the restaurant. I have to come and have to ask them, please step out. There's a lot of things going on. But I want to say that I think if we twist this and turn this around and make it a positive thing in regards to our numbers, start tracking our numbers, I think we'll be able to, you know, billable goods. I think we'll be able to approach that. And I think that we should, as a council, take that approach and start saying, you know, homeless is here for now. We're not going to be able to beat it, but we can account for it and start doing what, you know, what we have to do to make our citizens safe and our businesses safe. So.
And I appreciate Vicky Delgadillo, that report that she came out with, very insightful about veteran homelessness and the federal funding options. We haven't even tapped the federal options yet.
It's all about county.
Yeah, get as much as we can.
Yeah, so with the home key funds that you talked about, I know that the county has applied for some of that funding. I've approached my director of development, and we just need a place. Like, we just need to be able to look for, you know, what does the city have to be able to do those home key funds? I don't know what we own as far as, you know, motels or anything like that, like what can be done, because that's what they have the funding. The county has the funding. They just need to find where to place those and get those partnerships. And so it's not just about the county, it's partnerships with developers, it's partnerships with the COC, the, you know, continuum of care, the coordinated entry systems. There's a lot of different partnerships that you have to have in place in order to make those funds work. But it starts with development, and it starts with, you need to talk to a developer. And you know, we need to have the, you know, buying the other hotels. Well, what hotels do we have here that are willing to sell you know, because that's what home key is buying those hotels and then providing the housing. And it's not a permanent supportive housing, it's a transitional housing. So it's for a couple of years. It's getting them that support to help them get to the next step. And so there's a lot of different things. And I think I did attend one of the webinars where they talked about the being able to bill those back to, I can't remember the program right now. I left the information at the house. But basically recovering, you know, from some of these groups, some of these CARES Act or some of this money. And so there's a lot of out there, but it takes partnerships.
Yes.
It does. And so we're not going to do anything by June 27th. We should have been doing this since way before.
We,
You
we
know,
also have our I mean, I'm gonna go back to this again. We became districts now.
mhm,
We're not, you know,
right.
and we all have our residents that are asking us, have some residents saying, hey, what are you doing with the motel? What are you doing with it?
Mhm.
It's an eyesore. It's a nuisance for our business owners. I mean, we have to be compassionate for the people that want to help and help the homeless, but we also have to be compassionate and think about our residents. You know, think about the kids that are at the parks. You know, the parks. You have a homelessness person out there, you know, doing what he's going to do. You know, and so we got to be compassionate for the residents also.
And I ran as the mayor. I ran all districts, you know, so everybody talks to me, and that's a major theme of homelessness. What are we going to do? Council member
I
Guerra,
spoke with
you had an example
David
this week.
Valadeo, and we spoke with him, and he said, or his assistant told us that City of Tulare has did a place where it's towards in the country, and they're purchasing these little small homes. I mean, they're doing this in LA too. He said, but I mean, it's something, you know, it's a start. If it comes to that, you know, Selma's responsible for 5, 6, 10 homeless, it's a start, you know, but again, we should have looked at, okay, where can we put do we have land that's out in the country somewhere? You know, it's going to take time. So those are things that we have to look at, you know, place them out.
You see what Fresno's doing there? They're putting in ordinances where the building owners themselves have responsibility to make sure that they can't get in and set fires. They have to sprinkler it. You know, if it's vacant for a while, there are these building standards because fires are such a problem in Fresno. Maybe we ought to hold some of these building owners responsible too that have open windows where people homeless can get into, or homeless or homes under construction without fences, which are almost like attractive nuisances, attracting homeless to go in there, which puts pressure on our services, on our fire and on our PD, because people invariably call and say, why are they here? You know, why are they some of them are smoking meth in the back there. No one wants their kids to be around that. So, you know, we need to hold building owners accountable too, that they make sure that their buildings are secure and they can't get colonized by people that come in.
So what I understood was in the last meeting was that we unanimously said that homelessness was a very important issue to us, all 5 of us. How do we incorporate that into our budget, and what can we do to make our staff follow through with something in regards to the mayor just stated that there are some code enforcement parameters that we could do. Is it going to cost us? Is it going to be budgeted? I mean, these are things that we could actually talk to our staff in regards to. Can we finance a little more to our code enforcement where he can go? I know my father-in-law's house on Evergreen, there's a home on Evergreen that's always being approached, and exactly what the mayor, Mr. Forbes, you know, right there, right across the street, you know. So what can we do? We made it a point that we as a majority said that we want homelessness to be tackled. How can we financially put it just to at least set a strike?
American Rescue. I mean, there's a pot of money. That's why I keep asking how we can use that. It sounds like we've got direction now. We can use it. We just don't know how much. But maybe we ought to allocate some of that for this year.
One of the other things is I met with the mayor of Hanford, and he was telling me that they have a heart team. And he didn't tell me what the acronym meant, but it's the heart team. And they also have a parks resources manager, which it may be different from what the parks director is, but he did mention, you know, I need to get more information on what the heart team really does, but basically it's
what I understood was it's a team that goes out and, $120,000, that's a couple salaries right there. So that could be people that are dedicated, staff members that are dedicated to just that. And then they're dedicated to the partnerships, they're dedicated to, being that bridge between those agencies. And so I don't know if that's, a direction that we want to go, but that's something that is happening in our neighboring cities.
All they work on.
And that's
And
part
that's a
of us putting it
full-time.
down.
If I may add something as well, obviously code enforcement spends a lot of time, just based on that table that you see on the screen. But, Councilmember Trujillo mentioned how can we support our operations as staff. The vehicle that we were asking for in code enforcement was specifically to help cleanups when our code enforcement officers are driving around and they find, property in the right of way that belongs to a homeless person. Right now we have Priuses and it's hard to put things in the back of a Prius, right? But another thing to consider is Caltrans and the Union Pacific Railroad. A lot of the homeless encampments that we encounter are along their right of way, and they're also receiving an infusion of funds from the state and from the federal government to also address the homelessness issue. So it's a lot of the time that our code enforcement officers spend is coordinating with these agencies in terms of the removal. So, we talk about the continuum of care, but we're also talking about the utility companies and some of these other state agencies that can also support our operations, can potentially also support us financially to be able to address, not just cleaning up, but where do we, relocate these individuals.
And that goes back to having somebody who knows what's really going on, because what I've seen is there's so many organizations that deal with homelessness. People can't keep it straight. If we had somebody who made it their job to know what all these organizations, where they are and how we coordinate efforts, that would really help, right? That would help community development, that would help PD, that would help fire.
What you're saying
there.
is a stronger relationship with Caltrans and the Union Pacific.
Which we've established.
Actually an outreach, because what have we done? I mean, realistically, have we had any kind of outreach with Union Pacific? And if we have,
I think the chief has, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
guys
I
are
think-
always talking to them about.
We're always
cleanups
talking
with
to-
Code
Caltrans
enforcement
and-
coordinates
Yes.
very well with Union Pacific and, yeah.
Happen is we've moved the encampments. Is it working now?
Yeah, it's red.
We moved the encampments out of the city, and they moved to Union Pacific property and Caltrans. So, and we don't leave that alone, because as you know, you get complaints on that because it's within our sphere of influence still, even though it's not city property. So we work with them to do those cleanups. So we reach out to them all the time. You're right, I have many times, and code enforcement has a great deal.
but in
to
regards
do
to,
those
in regards
cleanups.
to, in regards to reaching out to them and speaking them,
Mhm.
do we track the information? Do we have analysis? Do we send them letters that are documented, date time? Do we document? These are the things that I've been talking about since, the last time we've been talking in regards to, these are very important information and structured plan, because at the end of the day, he just said it perfectly. If the Union Pacific is getting financial help and
Right.
we're using our resources, those are billable goods, because that's what they're get money for. So at the end of the day, it becomes an issue in regards to financially analysis this issue to death. So we can document every time that we go and clean out the Union Pacific. Every time Shane takes his people out there and cleans it, document it, put a date, send him a letter saying, Jay, thank you. We went ahead and did this for you. Time sensitive it, put the date on it. One more time, next 2 weeks, do it again. But what are we doing? We're gathering information so we can go in billable goods. And that's one of the main issues I want to make sure we get that cleared and start working on that.
And one thing to note too with Caltrans and the continued partnerships that we have with them, there's now established quarterly meeting with Caltrans, so we can talk about not just cleanups and things of that nature, but overall operations, maintenance, things of that nature. So the new director has now established that with all the cities within her district. We recently had that meeting a couple weeks back, where we actually started that open communication and have established that quarterly meeting now. The railroad is a little more harder to difficult to reach out to as far as communication, but we've still been able to break those walls down, especially on the code enforcement end, to be able to get that communication and get those cleanups done. Just overall working together. So it does take partnership, especially when it comes to the grand topic that we're talking about, homeless. It does take partnerships overall. It takes the county, it takes special services, because as Councilmember Mendoza Navarro says, you can attest to put money towards a program. Do you have the overall knowledge of, one, how to run that program, get them the services they need, where are all those entities at that can assist them, whether it's MAP or whatever it may be. So it is a large topic, but you can start to funnel that down through how you get that done, because everybody's talking about it now, right? So there's no one clear cut answer on how to facilitate it, because if somebody had it, we'd all be doing it, right? But it's that communication with the entities and our partners that you continually have to have, so that we can continue to assess it, work it, and try to get better. And I think we've gotten very strong at doing so.
And one other thing is, two things actually. One, the 41 families that, take them back to where they were. Well, we don't know where they came from because they can't afford to buy a new or get a new ID with a new address or what have you. One. And then two, there's also a eviction moratorium, which is going to end at the end of this month as well. So then that's another,
layer,
layer of homelessness, that we're going to have. There are programs out there that are helping, but it's not enough. It's not enough. And so we're looking at, a lot of landlords are going to have to do something. They're hurting as well, with the money. And so if they have to do evictions now and the moratorium is going to be over at the end of the month, then that's more families.
Question before. You started your conversation in regards to a truck or a vehicle that you were needing. Was that included in our budget, and has it been?
That is the one that I discussed earlier that was removed, that we were trying to.
Already in the budget.
It wasn't it was in the budget for the first workshop. It has currently been cut. But again, I would try to look to work that back in and try to assess an additional funding source potentially to bring that back. Because I do believe that it is key for code enforcement to be able to do those things. I mean, just for their one operation of one of their many, obviously we talked about shopping carts. I mean, that would be key to them as well. So again, this document is fluid. We'll continue to work it. Myself and the community development director feel it is an important tool. So we'll continue to look at that. Okay.
One other thing on code enforcement, I know I've had a couple calls and emails regarding, the ordinances, for the big trucks and the RVs and that are parked. And so I know we need more staff for that, but I mean, it's just something that, I do have residents calling me on, regarding the diesel trucks being parked in neighborhoods. And so the last thing was we were working on updating the ordinance. So, I just wanted to.
Sure. Yeah. And I can give you an update on that. We've had several meetings internally to discuss what that new ordinance will look like. I should have something prepared, hopefully by July, to bring to council for consideration.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Isaac, I have just one question for you. You mentioned you're going to be meeting quarterly with our partners, Caltrans and Union.
Well, we haven't established a meeting with Union. They're a little more difficult to get structured in that format. But the new director has got us to a point where we're having quarterly meetings.
With Caltrans, and
have
you discussed with them in regards to funding, since our city or our city staff is doing some of the cleanup? Will they, if we gather information, City of Selma get reimbursed?
Not funding and reimbursement. It's more of them taking a proactive approach. I think with COVID, they've really got structured, and this came down from the state, that they had certain parameters they had to walk around. They're starting to open that up now, and you've seen them more proactive because we're getting to the topper levels and saying, hey, look at this thing, or they will send us pictures, give us that information. And they're a lot open to receiving that data and doing those cleanups at a faster level. So the city staff is not having to assess it and spend more time. It's more of communication and having that open dialogue. Okay, we have this here. It's been there for a week. Okay, we'll probably be able to free something up next week and get that taken care of. So it's just a lot of communication and be able to assist. But again, Caltrans, and again, from the state level, got locked down on how they did those things because of COVID. Now that things
By
are
the
starting to
state,
open
right?
up.
The state has given them very set parameters of what they can do and how much they can go out on because they didn't want to expose their workers.
They
So
didn't want
couldn't go out.
their
and they
direction
just
from the
wouldn't
state
go.
level during COVID was not to move them at all, unless there
Right.
was a major safety factor.
And you
And so
remember
we had to
4
work through
years
those
ago,
parameters.
remember the problem was, remember the car dealers were upset about not having Caltrans come down and mow the lawn, you know, on the grass,
Yeah.
you know, on 99 in front of the car dealers. You remember how big those weeds were? And they're in front of 99, so no one could do it. You know, you citizens couldn't do it. Public Works couldn't do it. And Caltrans got their act together and they have a team, right? Like 2 teams that just rove our area. And I haven't heard those complaints from the car dealers in several years because they do that and they also mow the lawn at the on and the off ramps. They're making improvements. We just need to keep on good terms with them, and that communication I think is key. Rather, if we send them a bill, I don't know if they could do that, but if we collect the statistics, then at least when we speak with our Congress people, you know, and our funders, our assembly members, we could say this is what we spend on homelessness, and this is what we need assistance with.
I can tell you when it comes to the railroad, we just attempted to send them bills in the past and they got no response. Unless you got pre-approval for that expense, you're not getting reimbursed. But again, we've gotten pre-approval for the expense at one point and they paid for it. It's just, again, working through those layers and that open communication.
Finding contacts and staying in
Yeah,
communication.
I mean, especially for the
That's
railroad,
key.
we feel like we're always changing contacts here for some reason. But again, Caltrans is a key example, just working through those layers, getting to those key
Big
components.
bureaucracy, you know, just have to just work that. Okay.
So I think we got clear direction as far as the overall global topic, and we'll start looking into the ARP and how that's structured to make that a part of our objective within that. And maybe that's funding a position that directly deals with this topic only. That may be the direction that we get.
A single
right?
dedicated position, a homeless
So
coordinator.
staff will assess what we think is good options and how to do that, and we'll come together and get that done. Okay? Okay. So our next topic is the school resource officer for the request to fully funded for the school district. So we did have some open dialogue previously. Again, I gave you a number as far as what that dollar may be. Reassess that number with Chief Gomez and what that position will actually look like. It'd actually be a lower level officer, more of like a individual that's been there for 2 years, and what that factor would be. So at using that dollar factor, it's about $94,000. The impacts of overall, it's already budgeted, so it's not an addition to, but it's really about operations as far as that officer will now be shifted to a program outside of what their daily duties would be from a daily shift, and Chief can talk about that more. But just an overall global as far as the direction that you choose to give staff some potential options. And this is not an overall encumbering list. Obviously, council, this is an open dialogue on how you'd like to do this, but again, potentially look to the school district for partial, maybe fully funded, reduce requested full-time positions to allow replacement of the officer. So what that means is if our revenue streams come in higher, well, I'm sorry, that's coming for the next one, reduce our full-time positions. What that's actually stating is we have quite a few positions currently funded. Reduce one of those positions to be able to backfill an office position instead of whatever may be. Maybe it's we currently have a detective, we have an admin sergeant, whatever it may be. It doesn't even have to be PD, right? It could be another department. Reduce one of those to be able to backfill that position so operations not impacted. Another suggestion is city fully fund, but if cities fully does that, maybe give us the option that if our revenue streams come in higher than we're currently projected, what we'll do is we can adopt an FTE with one officer that is not funded, but if revenues or expenditures allot us to, we can actually fill that position to get that offset for that shift that may occur. So those are some options. Again, this is open to dialogue. So we just look for council direction on how you'd like to take this.
Chief, I have a question. Did you get to discuss with the new superintendent, Dr. Shepard, in regards to the SRO?
I have. I had prior to our last meeting, but I really haven't much because I was waiting for direction from council. Their letter that they had sent me, this is March 3rd, was to fund 50% of it. And as I stated last time, what I told them was they would fund 100%. That was my direction from my boss. And I've heard that they will, through the grapevine, that they would fund 100% of it. I can't, and I think I've made this case already, I can't pull somebody from patrol. I don't have anybody to, when we're talking, my minimum staffing is 3, and 2 of my shifts are that way now. So I'm just making minimum staffing with 2 shifts, half the patrol teams. And I can't, I couldn't take somebody off patrol and fill this without backfilling the position, hiring somebody else to fill that patrol position. In a cost benefit analysis, it makes no sense to do that. I totally agree with that connection, that liaison, with having an officer at the schools. It's very important, but at the expense of taking somebody from patrol to do that, that's not workable at all. So that's kind of where I am right now. I have the contract here. I've worked on the contract, very easy. Isaac gave it to me. Just got to fill in the numbers. I just need to know what those are going to be.
So I have a couple of questions.
Oh, no, I'm not done yet. Because I heard the same thing. I heard that she's willing to fund it herself. I mean, she's working with an $83 million budget.
Yeah, I know. That's all I was going to say, $83 million.
She's never
That's a lot of
said
money.
that they weren't going to do it.
Yeah.
So I feel the same way. I feel that they have the money to do it, let them do it. And she's new. She's got to step it up, let her do her job. She wants to prove herself, and I think that that we need to give that opportunity to her. So.
Okay,
that's how I feel.
so we all, I guess we're going to express our feelings and our opinions as to what we feel the schools should be doing. And first of all, I want to just state that, those kids are our kids too. They still pay our taxes. But in regards to innuendos and what you hear and what the rumors are, that's not definite answers. We don't work on that. If it was that case, then we would just be working on a budget of an opinion of anybody else. Or I heard we're going to have $35,000, and I heard there's 5 officers that just left. My job is to make sure that there's a budget, and the city of Selma has a budgeted police department. 2 years ago, we built the police station. I had 150 people here telling me not to build it. And there was two council members here that voted no. 5-6 months later, we hired 12 officers. Okay, we got fully staffed. Right now, we're not fully staffed. It's not because it's budgeted. Okay.
So we were down 14 officers.
When you start telling me that there's no way in source, there's no way you can fund this officer, I only can hire the city manager and the attorney. I sit here and approve a budget. I approve a budget, every department head should adhere to the budget. So when we hear rumors about, oh, they're going to be able to finance it, my opinion is we should right now foot some of it. Okay.
We should what?
We should pay some of it. Okay. But that's not, this is a budget. This is a budget. This is a budget that we adopt, that we as council, we're legislators, we approve a budget and you guys work off of that budget, department heads. Not about, if we have a budget that should fully staff 42 officers and you're only running with 32, 33, and you're running with 2 or 5 dispatchers, does that become the city of Selma's problem or does that become the police department's problem? So at the end of the day, it's about what we want to do for our community. And I believe that those kids are our kids. I believe that we have a budget. I'm not talking about an $83 million budget. That's not my budget. That's the school board's budget. I don't want to throw innuendos at what the school board got going on. Right now, I'm talking about, I would like for us city council to assist them. I'm not saying we're gonna assist them all the time, but I do want to bring something back. It's interesting that we talk about this is not something we can actually budget right now, when in fact, 2 years ago, we built a police station. 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, we did hire officers. We did fully staff our police department. Why we're not there yet? That's an interesting question. That's an interesting question that we should all be asking each other. Okay? So when we start talking about innuendos, rumors, there's a lot of rumors out in the public. There's a lot of rumors. So we want to start talking about rumors in regards, instead of talking about facts. Facts are this: we're talking about a budget that we're gonna approve, and we're gonna say if we're gonna vote yes or no. So
I
we
want to
can
go
all
on
start talking
record.
about
Are you
rumors.
done?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. So we can start talking about rumors if you like. But at the end of the day, I think we should fund this. We should fund this officer for the school district. If it's going to be 50%, 50%, that's fine. But I believe that. So it's not about accusations, about rumors. It's just that, hey, vote yes or no. If you believe that this is not for your public and not your for community, vote no. Right now we're in a budget. We don't need to be getting upset. Just vote no or just vote yes. But
Okay, I just want to go on record that I did not approve an over budget police station. I approved a police
Well, not
station
approve an
at
over
$8
budget
million,
part.
not at 11.5. That's what I didn't approve because I ran on public safety. I have been for public safety. I've always been telling them for years that they needed a new police station. So that's the clarification. So I'd want to go on record. I approved a police station. I did not approve an over budget police station.
Council, can we just keep it on the budget though? I mean, this is a big topic,
And
extremely
the other
important, but
thing
we are
is,
we're talking about the budget right now.
of course, I care about an SRO. My daughter's going to high school. Of course, none of us up here want to say we don't want a police officer at the schools. Of course we do. However, as a taxpayer, and citizens have stated, they pay school taxes. The school has an $83 million budget. They're saying they want to fund it. Let them fund it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Do we have any input from other council members at this point? We've heard from the two council members and very much appreciated. But would any other council members like to weigh in at this point?
So
I mean,
for-
I can go now, and I just want to keep it right on the SRO. Okay, I'm just going to keep it on that. I just look at it as a dollars and cents proposition, as the chief said, cost benefit. We just don't have the people right now. He doesn't have the resources. He doesn't have the people. I mean, maybe a solution would be once we get more staffed, then to come back, and once we hit that point, and then look at an officer going to the school, because I agree. I think it's important to have that officer at the school. And I think that's a good use of an officer's time, because the kids are part of the community. The parents are part of the community. They pay taxes. At this stage, though, we're talking about the police department of Selma, and we don't have the staffing at this point. And I don't want to get into the factors that's outside of our discussion right now. But just the cold reality is we don't have the availability to assign an officer there. So I think it would be irresponsible of us as the guardians of the balance sheet of the city and the folks who do the allocation of the resources to allocate that, 100% of that salary for a person who just doesn't exist at this point. But when we do get, that staffing, then we should bring this back. And I think that's reasonable. And I think the school district would see that. I think they would see that we're trying to work with them. We just don't have the resources right now. But when we do get the resources, then we want to go back in that discussion, and we want to have that discussion about assigning an SRO when it's feasible and when it's safe for the citizens.
So I have a question. Are we not budgeting right now for 2021 to 2022? So this would be a position that would be there, that when we get those officers, when we get that, it's a position that's already allocated, whether it's at 50%, 25%, 75%, whatever it is, it's a position that's there. It's not going to be filled tomorrow, because we know that we have other things that are going to have to be, we have to fill other positions. Summer's coming up. They're not going to need, I don't know if they're going to have summer school or not, but they're not going to need an officer
They've asked
during,
for it,
during
the
summer.
officer to start July 1st.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're budgeting for it, right? So again, it's not gonna happen in the next 30 days. So when we can get it, we can get it. We're just putting that amount aside so that when we're ready to and when we have that, then it's there. Because otherwise we're gonna come back and we're gonna have to do an adjustment or something to a budget we've already approved from 2021 to 2022. So it does,
So if
to
we
me, it
get to
doesn't
full
make
staffing-
sense.
So if you get back to full staffing, if you get those 4 that come back and you hire the one from the academy and the other one, and we get back to full staffing, would that then be a situation where one could be assigned?
No,
to the school?
it's going to be additional. It'll be, I'd still have to pull whoever, if I had the 4 back right now and the academy cadets already accounted for and somebody who already left. But I mean, I'd just be even, and then I'd have to give up a body to be an SRO, which
So
I
then we
don't
need to
have.
assign one more then.
Yeah, I'd have to hire one to backfill that SRO
Okay.
position.
So should we in the budget tentatively add that additional officer at this point for the school district? Given that we get back to full staffing? Contingent on full staffing.
So if,
I need,
So, but we just don't have the officer yet. So you're saying 50, what's up? Okay, 50% now for an officer of when we get back to full staffing plus 1, right? Okay. Is that what I'm hearing in the council? Yeah, I mean, I don't agree. I don't think we should pay for it, but I mean, it sounds like the majority of the council wants to pay for some of it. And the council wants to, and the reality is we just don't have a staffing, but when we get that full staffing plus 1, then the direction from council, I'm hearing, and somebody can make a motion, is to pay 50%.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Just pay
I mean,
50%,
could
but
this
not-
be like in
Let's get
6
public
months to a year? Because we can't even get our officers replaced yet.
How many would we have to have again to get to baseline, chief?
We're down 4 right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
for full time.
So we're in the process of hiring 4 to get back to 35. And that's our allotment for.
So we need 5 total, right? 4
Yeah,
plus
with
the 1.
SRO.
With this.
Yes, if you
Got
add
it.
SRO.
Okay. And we don't know when that will happen, just because we don't know what's going to happen this year.
So I make a motion to approve for 50% of the officer in regards to the 2020, 21, 22 budget, understanding that the police department does not have a fully funded, fully staffed right now.
Right.
And once they are fully staffed, they can account for that officer.
Once they get the
Yeah.
5,
Yeah.
then 1 is going to be allocated to the
However
school
way the
district.
chief of police feels that he feels that it's fully functional.
And you'll keep us posted, chief, on the
Absolutely.
staffing situation at the meetings in your
Absolutely.
reports. Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Councilmember, do you mind if I kind of add a little caveat on
Yeah.
that? And kind of commingle some of the things we're talking about here. I think a good option is leaving an unfunded position too as well. If revenues are higher, we can actually add an officer at that time.
That's at staff's discretion. Your staff, you guys are, all I'm saying is that we can fund half of it when the police department feels that it's adequately staffed to of course, take care of that.
So by making that motion and adding that position itself as an unfunded, that allows staff to actually hire that position instead of having to come back doing budget amendments and things of that nature. It'll allow me to speed up that process. Is that
Just like we had last year, we
amenable?
had 3 unfunded last year, right?
Yeah,
And this
yeah, we
year we're
kept them
funding,
until we
right?
filled them up.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be not the whole amount. We're doing 50%. Correct?
Right.
Okay, sure.
And then we need to hear from the public. City clerk, do we have anybody on the line who would like to talk about this?
Did you catch the second? Yes,
Did you second?
I second.
Okay. City clerk, we have the first and second. You got that right?
I did, and we do have a caller on the line. Mrs. Delgadillo, I see your line is open. Do you have comments for council?
Yes, thank you. I set up a meeting to talk with Dr. Marilyn Shepard, and she called me early in the morning at 7:30 2 weeks ago on a Monday. And I expressed to her how important it was to have an RSO officer, not just one, but we needed to have RSO officers available for all of the schools. 29 years ago, when I was a teacher at Roosevelt School, Becky Goldbeck, my colleague, and I were second grade teachers. We had a student in her class bring a loaded gun to school in his backpack. We have had children on the campus performing oral sex on the campus. Children as young as 4th grade. There have been students with machetes coming to the campus and walking along and through the cemetery. I never jumped into a fight at the school. I blew my whistle and I shouted at everybody. I was taking their picture and they were going to be suspended. I never jumped in a fight alone. And the campus is very dangerous. An RSO officer, like I told Dr. Shepard, you don't need one, you need 2 or you need 3. And then you need one at Heartland. And then you need another one available for Terry School and another one available for Indianola because they're so far away. And then you need one available to take care of all of the schools here in town. So I made it very clear to her how unsafe the campuses were. And if we want a good city, we need to have great schools, not just mediocre. We need to have great schools. And I told her, we need a brand new high school. And it is about time that we write to our legislation and beg, because we can qualify for a school. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Delgadillo. Do we have any other callers, City Clerk?
Those are all the callers that we have on the line.
Okay, thank you. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Councilmember Guerra.
No.
I'm sorry, was that a no?
No.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
No. Okay. Do we have any other topics?
On to our last and final topic. Again, coming out of the budget workshop. Public Works employee cost analysis. So the Finance Department's done a cost analysis of adding a Public Works employee. The cost factor of a maintenance employee 1 is $64,000. The cost analysis and what the question is, can we allocate that cost factor to other funds such as the LMD and streets, which is currently how we do our overall budget analysis. So I did some research as far as what that allocation would look like. And so what the Finance Department does for these other funds as far as the LMDs and streets, because they are restricted in a sense, we have to do an analysis of how many hours each employee is within the Public Works Department, regardless of where they worked or where they're budgeted and where they worked in each department and how that's done. So given those analysis that we've done in the prior years, we've come to the conclusion that general fund would be about 68%, would be about $43,000. Shifting to other funds would be about 32% of that total overall cost, 9 of it going to LMDs and 23 be going to streets. So that 32% equates to $20,690.
Is that on the general fund, because we've actually brought it up at a very short time and allocate that a budgeted item for next year, we'll be able to go and look for other resources in your budget
That percentage is really just looking at the unit of measurement of how employee works. That's how that allocation works. So
You have an analysis format of what every individual in Public Works, where they're working at, what they're doing?
for the LMDs and for the streets, yes, I have to do that because my reporting requirements, especially for the streets and especially for the LMDs. Yes.
I'm agreeing, that's good.
Okay. Yeah, we have to do
That's
that
good.
analysis. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so that concludes my presentation for the overall budget. Our overall, just a lot footnote for the general fund. We do have a balanced budget with a slight overall gain of $4,900. So we still have a last factor. We still have to deal with MOU. So there is some, again, this is a fluid document. We'll continue to discuss it. We're not done yet, but
Could I
would
just
say we're
interject
close to
one issue? We just got it. I just heard about it at Brentlinger. It's the slide. I don't know if you guys have gone over there and looked at it. We have a blue city sign that we're putting in front of the slide right now to keep people, kids from sliding down. There's a hole in it. It's really unsafe. It's terrible.
That was
And-
actually a budget request by the Recreation Department from the Community Services Director. The cost factor was $110,000 to replace that.
But the slide itself is what, 10 grand or something? But can you explain your strategy?
We're actually looking, well, and I can let other departments look, but we're looking to how we can make that equipment safer or what it looks like. I mean, equipment itself, and again, Kirshner can attest to this, there's other issues you have to deal with as far as bringing up to code too as well, right? There's different parameters for ADA and stuff that need to be assessed. So it's a little difficult to, well, I'll let the Community Service Director talk to that.
Couple years we asked for funding for Peter Ringo was next on our list, and Peter Ringo was funded last year. So we understand Brentlinger is a priority. The purpose behind not replacing the slide is the other portions of that playground is very outdated also. And so it didn't seem cost effective to spend almost $12,000 to replace the slide when it's going to go on equipment that's going to need to be replaced anyway. $2,300 just to have the slide shipped here. I even offered to go to Montana and pick it up.
Can you just take it off though? I mean, is there a hex? Is it a hex set that takes it off? I saw like 4 hexes that you could put in and just undo it. I mean, if that sign falls off like it did last week, those kids can go sliding down. They're not going to see it until the end. Can you just take it off?
It's a decision Shane and I will be meeting, but it was based on the decision that if somebody took the sign off, then you have about a 15-foot drop. And so
I get that, but I mean, look at the alternative. If they go down and the sign falls down, which it already has once, and that's no detriment to anybody. I mean, it can happen, but if the sign falls off, kids aren't going to know till it's too late. And there's a hole in that thing. I went out and looked at it.
What's Mike, what's our projected, I mean, let's stop. So we're saying that because of the cost factor, this slide and this equipment is outdated, so let's not even replace it. But what is our avenue as a staff? What's our projections to replace that, and how long are we looking at?
well, that's why we asked for funding for this fiscal year to replace the entire structure.
And that'd be 110,000.
Well, we can go lower, but our base 110 is trying to match it to Peter Ringo, and that covers actually Public Works could to take apart the existing. That saves about 8,000.
And you're trying to get a grant for that? That's what you're
We're
saying?
looking at grants. I'm on the phone constantly with the same grantee. They just can't confirm that grant. Usually it's available in August.
If Public Works did it, would it be lesser?
Well, no, that's 110 was based on Public Works removing it, but we could spend a little less. That's the shade structure. That's the.
I'm just saying right now, can you just take the darn thing off because it's dangerous right now sitting there. You guys all go take a look at it. It's bad. You went
We could remove the whole.
I haven't physically seen it, but I've seen it.
It's rough.
And it's I mean, to
Big
me, it's
liability
like
for
the
the city.
cost is the liability is going to be far higher than replacing it. And so if we could just tear it down
going to be a lot
completely
bigger than the
so
cost
that
to get a new
in
slide.
anticipation that we're going to replace it, but I don't know what the compliance
No,
we have to be,
the
so we'd
staff-
have to.
We have the ability to dismantle the whole equipment with the understanding that it's going to be replaced. That would be the best option,
That-
safest option.
Because that's the safest and that's gonna save liability and then it's gonna, because otherwise it's gonna cost a lot more. You said there's a 5-foot drop,
It's about a 15-foot drop.
15-foot drop, I'm sorry.
Oh, take it down. He's going to say he's going to take the whole thing down, and then we're
With
going to look
the-
for funding in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
We'll look for
It'd be-
funding The grant availability usually pays about 30 to 40,000. That's how Peter Ringo.
Yeah.
And so
I'll put my travel budget in. I think we got 10 grand in our travel budget. I'd be more than happy to cede that to playground equipment for the kids.
Mike,
make
can
sure
I
it
have a
gets on our
question?
radar. We're fully aware of it. It's just been a
I'd like to ask a question. Let me ask you, how long did you know, or when did you know about that slide being the way it was?
slide. As far as a whole, I think we got a picture a couple months ago. We forwarded it to staff.
A couple of months ago?
Yeah. Now
You
the
know,
sign just
I'm
came up,
just-
but last week was off for.
Yeah, really, because that's what some citizens told me. She goes, it's been like that for months. I mean, I would have liked, if you knew that, just to rope it off, because again, that's a liability issue. The child would have been hurt, it would have cost us a lot more. I mean, I think that's best practice. If you see something like that, rope it off. So that way no one can use it, because that's dangerous.
They're just, I can see what he's saying. If you take it off though, there's a big drop. So you.
No,
you
I'm
have a
not
big
saying to
drop
take
up
it off.
there.
I'm just saying
If you look
rope
at
it
the
off
sign.
where they couldn't.
But
But-
he's saying dismantle the whole, I mean, it makes sense, right? Dismantle the whole thing. Just get rid of it because it's
Well, the
all
clerks
old,
jumped on it right away,
outdated,
and
sharp
they
metal.
put the blockage so kids couldn't go down the slide. What
And then
just
just
came
save
up
up,
though is
find the
somebody
money.
removed the sign, and so it left it open. But Shane had that thing up. Once he saw the sign, he was on it right away. So we had it blocked so he couldn't slide down the slide. The purpose was we
Sign comes
weighed
up.
the difference between having to drop off 15 feet or having somebody go down the slide, even though it was blocked off. There's vandalism, so we're in a tough situation.
Somebody
but to remove the
pull the
whole
sign
equipment
off.
would solve the whole
It's easy to pull
liability
that
issue.
sign off. And it's like a city sign for saying police. It's like a sign. It's like a city sign that they're using. It's a good stopgap for a day or two. But I think what we're saying is let's just get rid of it so we don't have a big liability claim. Then we'll work on finding the money for the whole playground. And
So-
just make sure the kids are safe.
I
Because
had
there are
a-
other playgrounds.
I had a question. You guys mentioned ADA compliant, with that. And it might be kind of off topic, but it has to do with budgets. We just redid the streets. And so the ADA handicap parkings, are we in compliant with the handicap parkings through the new streets through downtown? I know we just redid the streets. And so I haven't driven down there, but I had somebody call me and tell me that the handicap signs or the handicap parkings were no longer there.
Yeah, so they're still not finished with that project. They still have to do some of the painting. You can see down Second Street, they haven't actually painted the stalls still yet. So they're still coming through and cleaning up that project. So the signs, if they were there and they were in compliance, they are going back. It is part of the scope.
How about American Rescue Plan? How about some of that money? Could we use some of that? ADA, we need that park to be ADA compliant. You're saying we could free up some money. You're saying if we use it towards salary, maybe we could it frees up that money that's left over in the salary to use it for other purposes. And could we use that for the playground? Find something that maybe is not the 110,000 grade A, but maybe something that is, passable and current and meets the ADA requirements.
Advantage of playground equipment is you're not stuck into you pay for a 20-foot by 20-foot building. It's kind of a cost here and there. Playground equipment is based on how much you put in, the more it's going to cost. So we can design a playground equipment and then just not put the full installation in the beginning. As more money comes in, we can
Make it
add to
modular.
Phase it.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah, phase it
also,
in.
American Legion is working on
American Legion.
making a yearly submittal to the council and to the city. They just can't confirm an amount. But he did, Alicia Zuniga did say
Post
we
12 is
could,
interested in that.
make
aren't
that
they?
announcement tonight that they working maybe $5,000 to $10,000 a year to help fund playground equipment.
There's more right there. So we can have the money. It's just not going to be all at once.
We'll have it removed and work for as soon as we get grants and opportunities to get it replaced.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
And with that, we'll move on to item 2, council requests for discussion and direction of recruitment, appointment of the new city manager. So I requested this one to be on because I just wanted, and I really thought this was going to be on after the executive session when this is discussed. So we could take it out, what we discussed in executive session, and pull this out and let the public know, because there's a lot of interest about who our next city manager is going to be and how that process is going to go. So I just wanted to get an idea from council and put my input in terms of, we answer to the people, and there's a reason that we hire the city manager, because it should be something that the people have an input, because we stand in for the people after all. So my input is that we should have a process where we hire a city manager, a clearly defined process with citizen input, have citizens being able to weigh in, just like we did with the police chief, have the citizens have their say too, and then we get their opinions filtered back to us, and we make a decision based on the input from the people. Does council have any comment on that?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but if as city council, we're elected to hire two bodies, right? We hire the city attorney and we hire the city manager, right? That's the ordinance, that's the government code, is that correct?
Mayor and council, that is correct. The council has the direct appointment of those two positions within the city government. And then the city manager assumes the role of the administrative head, the day-to-day manager of the city operations.
So do you see in any other cities that happens where there's input from the public, if that's the role that we have?
There are different approaches taken in different communities. I have seen communities that have had members, community members, whether it's a member of the chamber or some other organizations where their community involved in process. I've seen committees where the top 3 candidates that come out of interview processes will be vetted by groups like that independent, kind of like almost what they call blue ribbon type citizen committee, resident committees process. So that is an option that is out there. It's really at the council's discretion. As you identified under your code, the city manager appointment is one of the key decisions.
But just go back. I want to go back here. I don't know where, I don't know. Well, I do know what's going on, but I don't know. So I want to go back to the history here. We've there's a process. There's a process. We get an intern city manager. The intern city manager sets out a scope and asks to have an open bid or open was it RFP, and we get people to get evaluated, and we vote. There's no hidden secrets here. The bottom line is this. I sat in the council 2 years ago, and there were decisions made where there was a majority, and I respectfully respected their decisions, because I knew that, let's not hide. We're in a political arena. We work together. We ask each other what's the best interest of our community. Every one of us has people that don't agree with the opposite side, or what you want to call it, sides. But at the end of the day, we are all 5 here to hire a city manager. We might not like what we're doing, but we have an objective to hire. And no, there's no hidden windows. There's no secrets. This is open. But are we stating that we're going to hire or put an intern city manager in open public, or are we going to? I have never seen that before. I don't think it's advisable. What is?
Mayor and council, if I might just kind of step back and give a high-level overview. So there are several steps involved here. The first step that was mentioned was who runs the organization, the day-to-day operation, pending the recruitment appointment process. That's either going to be an acting or an interim. And the council is free to decide if they want to have an internal candidate or to bring in an interim on a contract basis for a short period of time until that process for the permanent position is complete. So that's at the discretion of the council. Now that does involve some issues of personnel privacy and confidentiality. And as to some of that detail, I do recommend that you consider that in a closed session discussion. That's not about the process of selecting the new permanent city manager. That's about what are you going to do for the next number of days until you get that appointment process completed. But in terms of the overall process,
There you
from
go.
the standpoint of appointment, councils have at that level looked to bringing in consultants. I know the city completed recently the police chief recruitment. They brought in, as I understand, Bob Murray and Associates, a firm that does that type of thing. That same type of process is something that would seem to be a consideration for the council here.
And legally, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but city attorney, we have liability issues too, because, I've been hearing some issues from people who've been saying, you've got some management liability exposure on your city council making these decisions like you're making like this without being accountable to us citizens. You're doing them in closed session, kind of a secret session situation. Having a little daylight in the process and having some more citizen input on this could actually be a safeguard against that liability exposure for citizens wanting to sue the city council for mismanagement, right, in the future.
I think from a legal standpoint, I would say the council is actually free to decide how they want to go through this process.
Not saying that. What I'm saying is the quality, the background, the decision-making process itself still needs to be thorough. Even though the council has that decision vested in it, it doesn't, that you're not speaking to the process itself, which needs to be thorough and rational, correct?
Absolutely. I think from the standpoint of the policy process that you look at, you want to vet your candidate in the manner that the council majority believes is appropriate for this community. And if that involves having residents who are part of that process, that is for a council majority to decide. Is that a legal requirement? I can't tell you that that is a legal requirement. It's not. But will it create a better product if you have the process more transparent and involving members of the community? I think from a policy standpoint, that's for the council to decide.
Is it a legal requirement to make a sound decision as fiduciaries of the city funds when those funds are allocated towards a city manager?
Yeah, I think, Mayor, as you talk about, for example, using city resources, investing in this kind of a process, yes, you want to take steps to ensure that fiduciary obligation is completed. So to that extent, yes.
Okay. And that's what I'm saying about the process. Okay.
And
Thank you
so-
for that.
I have
And
a
so,
question.
go ahead. And so as I mentioned, again, council, that is, we have those two obligations, is to hire the city attorney and hire the city manager, which is a code, government code. I don't have the government code in front of me. I guess it's the, I don't know if it's the 54957. However, I did put this on closed session because we needed to move forward. We need to talk about what we're going to do. It's not anything that's hidden agenda. It's something that needs to be done. Whether, like you said, if it's a personnel issue, so that's why it was put in closed session. But as far as the process, we have two jobs. I mean, we have one job to hire two people, the city manager and the city attorney. And so that's based on the government code. So
My
there's no
question is,
secret,
Coun-
no hidden agenda, sorry.
That's okay. So council, my question would be for transparency. In order to hire a new city manager, like we did for the police chief, is we went for an RFP, and then we did what we called a panel. There was two panels. They did citizens, a panel for citizens, and a panel for, they used law enforcement officers. So what I'm asking, are we going to use that same process in order to be transparent, to stay consistent with the way we're doing our job as council members?
And my response, council member, is that legally, it's at the council discretion as to how you want to move through this process. There appears to be a sense of culture already within the organization that with the police chief, the last high-level executive hire that the city has had most recently, you did have that level of community involvement. And if that's what the council majority is comfortable with, then that is the process that should be followed.
And we set a precedent by doing that. We had the community involvement for a position as high profile as the police chief. And I think the city manager is even more high profile than the police chief because they run the whole city. Thank you for that. So with that,
Thank you.
this is just a discussion item. I just wanted to bring that out so that we can take that into our executive session when we talk about the new city manager, and just wanted to make sure that the public, because the public has a lot of questions, there's a lot of uncertainty about our city right now without a city manager and what happened with the previous one. Okay, so with that, we will move into closed session. It'd be public employee performance evaluation and public employee appointment. And we will recess in closed session, and we'll take a 5-minute break and come back after that.
Can I stay here? Or we're gonna go? Stay here.
Mayor Robertson, I do apologize, but I do have a hand raised. We did not take public comment on that
Sorry,
item.
everybody. We had public comment. It was a discussion item.
We got 10.
Absolutely. Bring whoever wants to talk.
Hi, Mrs. Delgadillo, your line is open.
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to state that this person that we are hiring is the public administrator and the CEO of our local government of our city. They're the CEO. And they perform public administrative related activities. They have to develop and operate budgets. They need to prepare policy. They have to have the skill and the experience in directing the city's bureaucracy to help the council make good, sound decisions. And they need to possess the qualities of a good public administrator to carry out those decisions. And those qualifications, minimal, should be 5 years of experience in local government. And they need to possess a degree in public administration, preferred political science or business administration. And they should have a degree, a master's degree, or an MPA or an MBA, which is preferred. And they need to possess good character and integrity, and they need to have strong planning skills, and they need to be customer oriented and have experience in community development. And they need to be able to manage a diverse team of subordinates and department heads and have very strong oral and written communication skills and skills within the community to relate to the people. They need to be very sensitive to the diverse population that we have in Selma, specifically families who live in poverty, because our citizens have a $33,000 income. And I think that all of these qualities and traits are extremely important when we look at a city manager. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Delgadillo. City Clerk, do we have anyone else who would like to speak?
Hi, to the other caller on the line, please use *6 to unmute your line. Do you have any comments for council regarding this agenda item?
Good evening. This is Yolanda Torres. I totally agree with what Ms. Delgadillo just said. It's very important that we have transparency, and communication is key. I also agree and feel strongly about having a panel part of the process and community input. You know, just kind of like what we did with the police chief. I was on that panel. It went very smoothly. We learned a lot about the process and got to hear, you know, from the individual themselves. So with the community being able to ask questions and get some answers and feel comfortable with that, that makes us feel part of the process. And that gave us the, you know, the opportunity to communicate with other people and just see the transparency. So I think if we can all work together to get this, you know, to go through this process and with the city manager, I mean, that's really important, because there are a lot of citizens that are concerned about how things went with our last city manager. And I think it's important to make us feel comfortable. We are the citizens, we are the taxpayers, and it's important that we feel part of this process. So I hope you can consider that when making your decision. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Raina, do we have anyone else?
Mayor Robertson, those are all the callers that we have on the line. And
Thanks very
just to
much. With
confirm,
that,
we are
go ahead.
going into closed session.
Yes, we're going to recess. We're going to take a 5-minute break and then come back into closed session. Thank you.
Hi, Ms. Torres. I still see you on the line. I have to let you know that I'm going to close the Zoom session while they go into closed session. Would it be okay if you just hang up, and that way when we open it back up, if you'd like to jump back on, you can definitely do that.
Okay, so do I need to call back in or just stay on the YouTube?
You can call back in, but definitely stay on YouTube so you can watch when we come back.
Okay, honey. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.